All right, and we are live, the 28th annual Recovery Happens. We are excited to bring this to you, to inside your house, inside your home. This is going to be a rally of 2020 you're never going to forget. We have a jam-packed schedule, so we're going to go over some housekeeping really quick. We just want to welcome you really quick to the Recovery Happens California Recovering Communities of the 28th annual Recovery Happens, brought to you by CCAP. All right, so Angie, if you come aboard and you just let everybody know how to work Demio and how this is as far as some housekeeping, that'd be great.
Good morning and welcome to this year's Recovery Happens. My name is Angie and I'm here to give you some basic housekeeping about how the event will be done. You do not have the ability to be seen or heard. This is reserved for our presenters. However, you'll see that there's a chat room on the right. Feel free to use that to talk to each other and to the presenters. If you're experiencing sound or technical difficulties, please comment in the chat room and I'll address it after I'm done talking. Please check the FAQ for the Demio service first, which I am linking in the chat room as I speak. Chat is also where you can put any questions you may have. We will try and address them as we can, and we will be moderating them as needed. You'll also notice that the chat area has a section for handouts. When these are presented, the chat room will automatically flip over to that area. To get back to the chat, just click the chat button. That's pretty much it for me. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Angie. We'll be coming back here in a few minutes talking about some opening remarks to get this all kicked off for our annual rally. But before that, we want to lead everybody, and not only just lead everybody, but bring aboard Andy Short, the program manager for the LA area of the Phoenix. So Andy, would you go ahead and come aboard and lead us in a mindful moment?
I would love to. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm super excited to be here. As was mentioned, I'm the program manager for the Phoenix in LA, and I'm also a person in long-term recovery. And I'm going to give a quick kind of intro to the Phoenix, and then we're going to do a seated mindful movement exercise that we might do with our team members. So just to kick it off, I'm a little bit nervous today just because, as I mentioned, as a person in recovery, you know, I really admire the work that everyone here does and is truly the reason that I'm here today. And so I just want to say a sincere thank you from the bottom of my heart to you all for the life-saving work you do. The Phoenix, just to give you a little background, our mission is to build a sober, active community that fuels resilience and harnesses the transformational power of connection so that together we rise, recover, and live. And what that looks like is we run sober activities, fitness and other activities for free to anyone with 48 hours or more of recovery. So we want to really lower that barrier for entry to programs. That might be group fitness, it might be yoga, it might be meditation, a mindful moment like we're having today, a paint night, you name it. We run programs to engage people in a sober community. Normally, when doing a Phoenix event, I would go over our community standards, but I'm just going to give a brief overview of those. Oh, and I should say, I apologize, we run programs in person and virtually, so programs can be accessed really anywhere at any time. And in California specifically, we've just expanded to LA and San Francisco. And we also operate in the OC, so we hope folks will send folks our way. We're looking to partner all the time, so please reach out. I'll drop my email in the chat after this. So as I mentioned, community standards, just a brief overview. We really reinforce a respectful environment. We ask folks to follow along with their language and actions. In that way, we get more specific in a normal event, but I only got 15 minutes, so I want to get there a little bit faster. We support multiple pathways to recovery, so we see what we do as a support to existing treatment and recovery modalities. And we also support friends and family coming to our programs because that is part of anyone's sober, active community. So we're going to dive into this this mindful moment here. This is something we might run as in a partnership with treatment. If folks maybe have a little yoga stigma, or maybe that's an IOP and, you know, a high intensity workout is not going to fly at the end of a long day of work. So we're going to go through about 12 minutes, and you know, you folks are all, luckily you don't have to have your video on, so you can look as silly as you want, but I'm just going to start here and you can follow along with me. So as we get settled, you can just rest your feet on the ground, and I'm going to ask just that you feel the ground beneath you. You feel the seat supporting you from your back. Imagine that your vertebrae are stacked on top of one another, and just let yourself be supported. And maybe you bring your focus, your vision, to a single point. And maybe if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. And just take a couple breaths here through your nose, in, out through your mouth. And as you're breathing, just notice, again, the support from the ground, from your seat, your feet flat. And notice your tension that might exist in the body. And just notice it. You don't have to change it right now. We're going to start our movement actually really small, just in the face. Continue to breathing. Start to tense up the muscles in your brow and your forehead. It might look a little silly. That's okay. And then release. And on our next breath in, start to tense up those muscles again without giving yourself a headache, please. Be gentle. And release on that breath out. And one more time, tensing those muscles maybe a couple times in, and release. And now we're going to do a motion you're probably all really familiar with if you've ever taken a gym class. That beginning warm-up section, we're just going to let our head drop to our right shoulder. And really slowly, as we continue to breathe, we're just going to do some head rolls. So dropping that head back, not tensing or kind of pulling, but just letting it drop as you breathe. Over to that left shoulder. And let your head drop forward. Again, over to that right side. Back. Left. Forward. And on this next round, start to notice where there's tension, and maybe just roll, kind of hang out there for a little bit, and maybe you roll back and forth in that spot, giving yourself a little self-massage. And as you continue, notice those spots of tension and just breathe there for a second. Again, you don't need to make anything happen here. Just really being attuned to the moment and your breath. And as you move out of this motion, let your head kind of come back to center. Imagine there's a string attached to the top of your head, kind of lifting you up a little bit comfortably. So you have that good posture, that proud chest, posture you're proud of. And we're going to move to shoulder rolls, again, very slowly on your right side. So you're going to start by lifting your right shoulder up. If you're watching me on camera, it's going to look opposite, but that's fine. Whichever shoulder goes up first, that's fine. Push that shoulder back. And continuing to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. I forget sometimes, to be honest. Push that shoulder down. And then bring it forward. And again, up. Back. Down. Forward. And then bring it up. Hold it there for a second with a breath in. Breathe out and release it. We're going to move to the other shoulder. For me, it's my left. Whatever shoulder you haven't moved through yet, just lift that up. Back. Down. Forward. Continuing to breathe up. Back. Down. Forward. And feel where there's tension, feel where there's tightness, and just let that be information right now. Don't need to act on it. One more time, up. Back. Down. Forward. And one more time, just lift that up, hold it there, breath in, out through the mouth, let that shoulder fall. Now, if you have space or you lack arms on your chair, we're going to do our best with this one, but we're just going to do similarly some really slow arm circles. So again, breathing through your core, through your center, through your nose, as you take your right arm and you lift it up in front of you, up above your shoulders, back behind you, and down. And we're going to even slow it down from there. So breathing, think of it like a windmill in front of you, breathe up above you, in behind you, down below you. And we'll do that one more time on the right side or whatever side you start with. In, out, back, down. We're going to do that on the other side. Left arm, breathing in, forward, out, back in, down. One more time. One more time. And as we end here, it's about up on time, just again, if you can, with your eyes closed, feet on the ground, your arms hanging to your side, take a couple breaths in. So in through your nose. Notice tension. Breathing out. Release tension. Just going to do 2 more breaths and then we'll find an end. In through your nose. Notice tension. Out through your mouth. Release tension. Take 1 more breath on your own. Thank you, folks. What a way to start a rally, right? Mindful time. Just as a reminder, sorry, I'm going to drop my email if anyone wants to reach out, and our where you can find classes online or in person for the Phoenix. Thank you so much for having us again, and thank you for this work. And I'll pass it back to Christina.
All right, Andy Short, thank you so much. Once again, he was representing the Phoenix, and we really appreciate our partners and sponsors at 28th Annual Recovery Happens. So with that, before we get started, I want to do a land recognition in Sacramento County, because that's where we're broadcasting from. And we know that you are all over the nation right now in all different states, cities. But I do want to pay homage to the Wintun, Miwok tribe, Pomo, Midu, Hopa, and Kalak. All right. So with that, one of the things I also want to say greetings from all over California and all over the United States for everybody that's coming to this 28th Annual Recovery Happens. CCAPS puts this on every single year, and it's at the state capitol. But for right now, it's in your living room or your home or your facility. So we're really excited to have all of you. So good morning, ladies, gentlemen, LGBT identified people, non-binary and trans individuals. We welcome everybody from backgrounds, from their walk of life to religion to whatever their spiritual practices is, their freestyle recovery to recovery, and all the recovery that you all do, because recovery does happen and it starts with you. So we have a couple of speakers that we're gonna bring up here in a minute, but really quick, I just want to take this time to say that there are people that are out there suffering, and even probably on this particular call that we are on today, having this rally, but we want to support you. You're going to hear from phenomenal people today. You're going to hear about all different kind of recovery stories. We have a lineup that's no joke. We are so excited to actually bring this to you, not only as we used to go ahead and do it at the state capitol, on the steps at the Capitol, but also be able to bring this actually and broadcast to your home. I didn't introduce myself, so let me introduce myself right now. My name is Christina Padilla. I'm the Vice President of Education and Strategic Development here at CCAP, which is the California Consortium of Addiction Programs and Professionals. I'll be bringing up a couple of my colleagues here in a second, just to do a quick opening remarks, and then we'll be having our President and CEO of CCAP, Pete Nielsen, and also our keynote speaker coming up. So all I would like to say is that each day we all go through a struggle. Each day, sometimes we might not struggle, but life and recovery is something that we go through for the rest of our life. It is not an event, it's a lifestyle. You know, it's hard to get up those days sometimes that we don't want to get up those days. There's hard things that happen. We have people that are in long-term recovery that might relapse, and that we're affected, even though that we're drug-free. You know, so a lot of things is we're here to tell you recovery happens, and you're part of it. Whether you've got 24 hours, 6 days, 20 years, 50 years, we are just so happy to have you being part of this event, because you're our future. You're our future as far as saying recovery actually does happen. Our faces and not having to say and making sure that, you know, there's so many discriminatory practices out there, you know, and people looking at when people are trying to get what we call clean and sober, but drug-free is the terminology. And the thing is they need to see successful people such as all of you that's on this call, and how you've been successful in your life, because in the media, they see more the negative than the positive. So it's important for us to put the upfront, and us sometimes to put our pride to the side, and for us to be on the forefront and saying, yeah, I'm in long-term recovery. And you know what? I am successful now, and I've been successful for this amount of time. So with further ado, I just had that really piece really quick opening remark to say, but I do want to go ahead and bring somebody up that's a phenomenal person. That is our membership manager at CCAP, and that is Craig Corey, to say a couple of words. Craig, could you come on really quick to say a couple words?
I can. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Craig Corey. I'm the membership manager with CCAP, and for the past several years, I've also been blessed enough to be the project coordinator for Recovery Happens, which only means that I'm the coordinator. It takes a phenomenal team of the community, families, individuals, CCAP staff, commitment from our CEO and our board of directors to do this event every year. And it's kind of surreal today, as it is for many of us in these unprecedented times, to be not out on the steps of the Capitol. My first Recovery Happens was in 2001 when I had 11 months drug-free. And so for the last 19 years, I've been on the steps of the Capitol for the last 19 years, as I said, on the first Wednesday of every month, or of September, excuse me. So it's kind of surreal, but I am so grateful that all of you are here. You can see the picture on the screen there. That's just what I'm imagining, that even though we're virtual today, we're all together. We have our sobriety booth tags on, and we're all here together, united to celebrate recovery. And although today is a celebration, and it definitely is a celebration, every day is a day to celebrate recovery, and every day is also a day to to voice against the discrimination and the stigmatism that goes with people in recovery. We should be proud to say recovery. And so this is a huge event. I'm hoping next year that we can all be on the west steps of the Capitol again. I'm going to be getting started early. I'm going to be reaching out to everybody. I want input and participation from everybody in the state, programs, the individuals, the committees, everybody. I want to make next year a big year, and just keep having your voices heard every day. Thank you for being here, and hope you enjoy the event. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Craig Corey. And one thing I failed to mention is that he is like the organizer and coordinator of the whole thing. Like me and Pete and all the CCAP staff and Sherry Daly, we move and groove, but he coordinates all the different stuff at the state capitol. So we're very proud of you, Craig. Thank you so much for doing that this year and even getting this together and every single year that you're at the state capitol. All right, so next I have a colleague that I'd like to bring up. It's also a vice president. She's the vice president of communications and affairs, and also works with all the legislation and is at the front steps, always at the Capitol. Sherry, go ahead and take it away, Vice President.
Hi, everyone. I miss you so much. I look at the picture of us at the state capitol last year, and it's such a great time, but I'm so glad you're all still committed and here today. I'm here this morning just to update you that recovery is still happening even during the pandemic, and just wanted to tell you a couple of the great things that are going on to make sure that we don't lose anybody, nobody falls through the cracks during this pandemic. So first off, our programs, when this hit, it was all hands on deck, trying to protect our clients and people in recovery from getting the disease. There was no PPE, personal protective equipment, anywhere, and CCAP swung into action and got thousands and thousands of masks and gloves and hand sanitizer to send out to all of our programs so that we could keep everybody safe. We also swung into action and made sure that all of our workforce were considered essential workers, and that gave them free childcare until the end of June because they were considered essential workers. We also made sure that our workers and people in recovery are tier 2 for testing, so they get priority, so that if somebody is sick while they're in treatment, they don't have to wait weeks to get a test done. They are at the same level as hospital workers would be. So that's some other great news. Some of you who are still in treatment and are here today or are working in the field may have noticed a huge increase in telehealth, which is great for some people. For some people, it was like trying on a new pair of shoes. It felt kind of uncomfortable at first, but then you start walking in them and it works. We may see more of that in the future. It provides better access for some people. For others, they might just put that new pair of shoes on the shelf and prefer to be in person once the pandemic is over. But we made sure that improved our accessibility during the pandemic. The other major thing is that we have we were facing budget cuts, believe it or not. all of the new needs for treatment that the pandemic is bringing on. And at the same time, the legislature and the governor were looking at cutting our funding. So we joined a huge coalition to stop that in its tracks so that everything is fully funded in this upcoming year. And that was, believe it or not, a huge struggle. It takes all of our voices, all of the recovering community, to make sure that people in recovery don't fall through the cracks. So I'll just leave you with, yes, we're in hard times, but you've all seen those. You've got this. Yes, we've all faced loneliness and isolation, but we got through it. Yes, we've faced down a deadly disease and are still living. So we have a lot to offer during this pandemic. We have the ability to have compassion, love, and show people the light. So keep it up. I'll talk to you later about what you can help with advocacy later in the program. Thanks, Christina.
All right, so that was a rock and rolling Sherry Daly that keeps us fresh and oh so clean, especially at the legislative parts of all the different stuff that CCAP puts in order. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll hear a little bit later from you, okay?
Thanks.
All right, thanks so much. All right, so we're going to keep rolling for our 28th annual Recovery Happens event today. So with that, I want to go ahead and bring somebody up that's really awesome and that's on fire and really a trailblazer in this industry. And that person is our keynote speaker today. So this particular person has a message for all of you. And that particular person I would like to bring up is Ryan Hampton, which is the founder of the Voices Project. Ryan, take it away.
Thank you so much for welcoming me this morning. And I think it goes without saying that, my gosh, I wish I today was on the Capitol steps in Sacramento with all of you, because you know, I just want to be honest for a second. Like, these last couple of months have been very hard for me, you know, in my recovery, in things that are going on with my family and with COVID. I have loved ones who are impacted by COVID, and we've been dealing with that. And I have friends who have, you know, overdosed and died as a result of not getting services and services being shut down. And I could use a big hug right now, you know, but right now, today, this is what we have. And hopefully next year we will all be together again on the Capitol steps. And just as Sherry had said before, you know, recovery is still happening. This is Recovery Month. This is our moment to stand up, to be seen, to be heard, to show our purple colors, to show, you know, not just the nation and the country and policymakers and people in our community, but the world, essentially, that recovery is real, that there are 23 million of us, that this is a real thing, and it is happening every single day in our communities, despite that we can't be together in person right now. And I think it's important for us to recognize that even in, you know, this time of what some call physical or social distancing, that we still can maintain emotional proximity. And, you know, to me, today, that emotional proximity means the ability to wake up and actually join this call. And there you all are, right? There you all are. People I love, the people I care about, a lot of friends of mine from my home state back in California, and I miss you all so much. And I was thinking about, you know, what is it that I could share, you know, this morning. And I think it's, you know, I don't want to go through my story, but I think there's a piece of my story really of why I was led into this work, why I was led into, you know, starting the Voices Project from a sober living home in Pasadena, California, you know, when I was a year into my own recovery and an early recovery, and why I've decided to advocate and get involved. And so I wanted to share that with you this morning, and kind of where some of those values came from. You know, I'll never forget, really, and I'm sure a lot of you will relate to this, sitting in this old, beat up green lounge chair that was on the deck where we used to have our Saturday morning meetings. It was an early, and it was a particularly cold November morning almost 5 years ago in Southern California in Pasadena. The mood was a lot of confusion. We sat around in a circle like we always did for our weekend check-in meetings. We had one every Saturday morning, but this one felt particularly different. Something was wrong, and you could really see it in everybody's faces because it was just silent, right? You could hear a pin drop. But, you know, at this point in my life, for me personally, I was still kind of holding on for dear life. You know, I had walked into that recovery house, recovery residence less than a year earlier with nothing but the clothes on my back. I was on public assistance. I had no job. I had no transportation. I had suffered from severe depression. But I think more than anything, I was just really tired. I knew how hard it was to hold on. And some days I just wanted to completely throw in the towel and give up. I wanted to go back to where I was comfortable, which was in isolation. It was on the streets. It was wandering in this spiral of never-ending drug use. And as dark as that sounds, that's actually where I felt the most welcomed. That's the place where I did not feel judged. That's the place where I didn't worry about being told that I was different and that I didn't belong. And on those dark days, and there were plenty of them, when I felt like there was no end in sight, I would oftentimes pick up the phone and I'd call my mom. Now, my mom, who was nearing her 70s at this point, she always had a wise word for me. Her tone was usually soft and very slow and collected. And she would remind me that when I was 15 years old and when my dad went to prison and our family had essentially lost everything, that I would stay up with my little sister late at night and do homework with her while she was out working her third job just to keep clothes on our back and food on our table. I can remember so many times when things were extra tight, Mom would make her weekly stop at McDonald's. You remember McDonald's when they had 29-cent hamburger day, and she would buy enough for me and my sister and I to freeze and last for the entire week, because she would be out teaching night school until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night after working a full day since 7:30 in the morning. She would remind me that as long as we stuck together, that everything would be okay. Now, my mom never gave up. But even though we had each other, loneliness was just this continuous defining theme for my family. For the better part of my teenage years, we were seemingly unwelcomed at the church that I grew up in. Our family story of my father's incarceration was huge, big news in our very small town. People that we would spend holidays and birthdays with when I was younger would look the other way when we walked into Sunday worship services. We were no longer welcome. We were different, and we were pretty much on our own. When we would be shunned or forced out, whether it was from the church that I had my first communion at or the house that I actually grew up in, when we felt like we were on the brink of utter and total collapse as a family unit, my mother would be the source of inspiration and the backbone of our family. She would be our strength. And she'd tell us that it is going to be okay, because together we can go on and we can build a better home and a place where we do belong. Now, Mom would remind me that when it seems that all is lost and the world is dire and bleak, that there's always some sort of hope. That hope could maybe, just maybe, carry us to a place where we would be welcomed. So I had, to my core, completely understood when my roommate Nick had come home the night before and told me that he had lost all hope. I knew how he felt when he told me that he was using again, that he couldn't stop on his own. Now, Nick wasn't just any roommate. He happened to be my roommate. He was 24 years old, and it seemed like he had the whole world in front of him. But Nick didn't think so at that moment. He was afraid, and he was begging for a way out. Nick felt he couldn't tell his job, call his family. He had no insurance. He had no money, and there was no solution in sight, it seemed. And to top it all off, he would be unwelcome at our recovery home at the stroke of midnight. Now, I'm not arguing this point because I knew the rules were the rules and they were pretty much completely out of my control at the time. Simply put, that night I felt helpless and I felt powerless. Now I can remember looking at the clock that night and that anxious feeling I had when I realized it was already 11:43 p.m. and we didn't still have a plan. And I was thinking, wait a second, doesn't the Pasadena hospital, just a couple blocks from here have a mental health unit? Shouldn't they, the thoughts going through my head of, shouldn't they be able to accept Nick there and just hold him for a day or two, get him medically cleared so he can just come back to us and we can do what we do and help him get back up on his feet. And that seemed like a reasonable plan. And I thought, okay, let's do this. Let's at least get him somewhere safe to go tonight until we can figure this out, in the morning. And that night that he left for the hospital, that was it. That was the last time I saw Nick. He went to that hospital and he waited. When he got there, he was treated as if he were a second or third class or no citizen at all. He wasn't even seen by a doctor. He showed up. He told them that he couldn't stop using heroin, that he was fearful about what could happen to him. Imagine this, okay? A hospital. This is just infuriating to me. A hospital, not just any hospital, but one of the best and most renowned hospitals in Southern California at the time, told my friend that they couldn't help him when he was asking for help. And instead they sent him away with nothing more than a little white piece of paper with a dozen or so hotlines on it that he can call in the morning. Now, I think that everybody, not some of us, but everybody on this call today, all of us, everybody at this rally knows what it feels like to be turned away, to be unwelcomed, and to try the next house on the block. It is probably one of the most defeating feelings that I have ever felt in my life. Now, the next morning, sitting in that same old green chair, I just had this sense that it was coming. The owner of the house didn't have us circled up 4 hours before our regularly scheduled meeting to break great news to us. And then he spoke. He told us, this is what happens. He said, people die. He said, last night, Nick overdosed and died just a few blocks from here. I don't know what to say except what I've been telling you the whole time since you got into here, into this house. And that's that sometimes people have to die so that others can recover. That statement, the absolute rage of that statement, I still hear it sometimes today, and all I can feel is a fire in my gut. And it took me months to really understand what happened that day. Nick was always top of my mind wherever I went, and he still remains top of my mind today, and especially during this month. I didn't know it then, but his death had kind of sent me on this journey to ask the question, why? Why is this happening to my community? Now, 4 years ago, that journey led me to a union hall right down the street from that same sober living. I showed up there with over 100 friends of mine, friends of Nick's, friends of other friends who we had lost to overdoses that year to stick that same question to our community. Why? It was election season 2016 and caucuses were happening all across the state of California to elect delegates to national party conventions. By this point in my early recovery, we had already buried a half a dozen friends we loved, people we cared about, and people who were a part of our community that were our friends. We were desperate for a solution, and we were desperate to just be heard. And it made me remember those days when my mom was working late. She used to have me walk to my grandmother's house where we would stay until she could pick us up. My grandmother would take us to a community town hall or a city council meeting to help occupy the time. She'd teach my sister and I how laws were made and how civic participation worked. And that same year in 6th grade, when I arrived at a new school as an outsider, I actually ran for class president to find some sort of belonging. I had put up posters. I called my classmates. I actually went and visited them at addresses that I found in the yearbook. And I took the possibility of making 6th grade policy change seriously. And much to my surprise, I actually won that year. And for the first time in my young life, I felt like I was a part of something. So in a sense, I was absolutely hardwired for this type of solution when me and my friends showed up at that Union Hall in 2016. It was the second time with my name on a ballot. And although this felt a very, very long way from 6th grade, I knew that to be heard, I had to step up and become a part of. We had decided as a community a few weeks earlier that our organizing strategy would be to register me as a candidate to the convention, which would at the very least give me the opportunity to speak to our community. I'd get 30 seconds to tell them our story and ask them to do something about it. We had no intention to win. All we wanted was to be heard. But the result was something that has completely guided me in my advocacy work for the past 4 years. We showed up as outcasts, but we left being a part of. We worked the line of hundreds of people waiting outside to cast their ballots, fanned out in groups of 2 or 3 each, to share our stories and the stories of the friends that we loved and we had lost. We couldn't get a full sentence out with somebody telling us their story, how they had lost a loved one to an overdose, how they had grown up in an alcoholic household, or how their brother or sister had just entered treatment. It was as if our community was waiting for our permission, the permission from people in recovery, to come out of the shadows. Now, we were what they call community organizers that day. We just didn't know what you called it at the time. Now, let me be clear about something. It is 100% absolutely through my personal recovery that I have found resiliency and that I have found community. But it is through organizing that I have found passion and purpose for change. Many of those community members that day went on to be some of our biggest allies. They have helped us fight for life-saving legislation such as mental health parity that we continue to work on today in the state of California, a phenomenal bill that's in front of Governor Newsom right now that we all should be supporting. They went on to help support us for the first ever sober homes standards that were published by the federal government as a part of the Support for Communities and Patients Act in 2018. I think it's important to note that today, right now, there are close to 25 million Americans just like Nick who are still being told they are unwelcome. Still, in the year 2020, people who are struggling with a substance use disorder, and the vast majority of them are being told that they are unwelcome to treatment, that they are unwelcome to housing, and that they are unwelcome to the critical long-term supports that saved my life and would prevent another overdose death like Nick's. But the hope here is that all of you, everybody who took the time to join this virtual rally today, you all have the power within you to change that. It is up to you. It is up to us as a community to change that. I don't think it goes without saying that, we're in the middle and at the tail end of what could be one of the most important elections of our lifetime. The recovery community has the ability to show their power at the ballot box. I don't care who it's for. This isn't about party. It's not about Democrat, Republican, Independent, wherever you lie on the political spectrum. Show up. Talk to your policymakers. Talk to your legislators. Talk to your members of Congress about the value of recovery in your community. Because while we have so much hope today, there is an assault on recovery that is happening all across this country every single day. And unless and until people in recovery, those who have been impacted, family members, which are such a critical part of this equation, step up and demand change, we're going to continue to be undercutted. But we are seeing so much progress just by the people who are on this call and the ones who have decided to step out of the shadows. And California, in a sense, is leading the way on a lot of these efforts. So you should be proud of everything that you have accomplished and continue to accomplish in our beautiful Golden State. I cannot wait until this pandemic is over, and I can come back home to California and see all of your faces in person. Go to some of my favorite meetings in Southern California. And hopefully next year, this time, we'll be able to stand on the steps of the Capitol back in Sacramento and report on all the progress that we have made. The challenge ahead of us is steep. You know, COVID has thrown a real wrench in the works into a lot of the ongoing work that we care about and have been working on for years. But we can't give up. We just have to protect, in addition to fighting for more, we have to protect what we already have. I'm grateful to each and every one of you for the work you do in your communities. I look forward to continuing to work with you in the next year. You can feel free to call upon me anytime, and I am just grateful to have been welcomed here this morning to join you virtually. Thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Ryan. We really appreciate your time and also all your advocacy on every level. We really appreciate you. Thank you. So without further ado, thank you so much for that. I want to bring up somebody that is phenomenal, that's a trailblazer in this industry, that keeps things going on and on and on. And without him, I don't know what we would do, but he's an extremely important man and a very, very, very good colleague. And for further ado, I want to bring up Pete Nelson, and he is the president and CEO of CCAP. Take it away, Pete.
Thank you, Christina. And thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate you and all your efforts. And, you know, we've been kindred spirits, and you know, I always appreciate all you do for the recovery community, and thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your story today. You know, I want to first say that, you know, I am an individual in a long-term sustained recovery. And what that means to me is that I have not had a drink or a drug since February 15th, 1996. And for that, I'm truly grateful, you know, and I know that I'm amongst my own here, you know, so I appreciate everybody being here. I first off want to start out with a moment of silence. I want to start out and remember all of those who have, you know, died because of this disease, died from overdoses, suicide, and, you know, that they don't have to die. And I want to take a moment and really send, you know, our thoughts, hopes, you know, prayers out to the individuals that are still suffering currently from this disease of addiction. And, you know, nothing worse than, you know, feeling that there is no hope. And so let's take a moment and let's honor the individuals who have died from this disease, and let's send our hopes and you know, aspirations for those that are suffering currently, so they don't have to die from this disease. So please give us a moment and just think about those that have lost their life and those that are suffering. Thank you. Thank you. I am super excited to have everybody here. We're not the Capitol. We're virtual. but you know what? That's a better opportunity to get our message out. And so when this is done with the video, we're going to put this on YouTube. Share it, do watch parties, but get the message out there. Get the message out there that recovery is possible, that we can change, that things, that people do not have to die from this disease, that, that we can, help individuals that need the help, that nobody has to be like Ryan's friend, Nick, that be told that there's, nothing they can do for them, and we need to educate people on the disease of addiction. There's too many people that don't understand, and we need to help educate individuals. We need to, make sure that we give them meaningful help and not just lip service. We need to look at each one of us. Anybody that's in recovery, there's this thing that goes on within the recovery community. One, we're fractured. We need to align. We may have a lot of different beliefs and thoughts, and there's a lot of diversity, but let our diversity be our strength. Let that align us. We don't all have to say the same things, but what we have to do is stand up for recovery, stand up for change, stand up and hang our heads high, and that we are worthy, and that you are worthy. That too many times people in recovery don't feel that we're equal to, and we allow ourselves to be discriminated against, to be stigmatized, to be left and pushed aside. We are a silent population that doesn't need to be silent anymore. We don't have to be anonymous anymore. And too many times we're afraid of people's reactions. Other people that suffer from other diseases such as hypertension, cancer, other chronic diseases, when they say, "Oh, I have a chronic disease," there's empathy there. But many times with the disease of addiction, there's not empathy. They're either thinking about, oh, well, they're going to try to reform me, or they're thinking about, I don't want those individuals, and they're treating it as a moral issue and a behavioral issue rather than somebody suffering from the disease of addiction, or somebody recovering their life from, a disease that could have took their life. Anybody that is in recovery is a survivor, and that's amazing. We need to think ourselves as survivors, and we need to think ourselves as that now we get to live in recovery, and we get to live and thrive. We got an opportunity to be able to, look at making changes, and Ryan really said it well. We need to get out and vote, but we also need to stand up for recovery. When there's anything that's positive, and there's any discrimination or stigma, we need to stand up, and we need to not tolerate it anymore. We don't have to. We get to be the change. So, this is a great opportunity for all of us, to be able to be that change. We have an incredible document that and resources. So we have Cal Recovery, that's resources that anybody can use. And we have a document that's called Isolation and Treatment. And please check out that document. I'll go ahead and share that document and our strategy for what we can do to make changes. I'll tell you, it's scary that, this, I call it parallel epidemic, that COVID and addiction, and that, when the veil of COVID is lifted, we are going to see this disease manifest in areas and ways that we've never seen before. And, please read our white paper on that, because it really explains it. I just want to take a couple moments real quick and really acknowledge and talk about a couple things that are needed within the state of California. We have an amazing Medicaid system in California. We call it Medi-Cal. And, the ODS waiver, the 1115 waiver is amazing, that we have this opportunity to be able to give more treatment. And it's absolutely needed in the state of California. And I thank everybody at DHCS and everybody that was involved in getting the 1115 waiver, you know, and all the hard work, all the counties and everybody that has done, because I think that it's revolutionary in that thinking. And I think that we need to go to the next level in that. We need to start thinking not just about the organized delivery system, but about the recovery-oriented system of care. We need to think about the system that goes around that organized delivery system, and that's the recovery system of care. Because we need to look about the early intervention, we need to look at prevention and relapse prevention, and we need to look at recovery community organizations as the solution to that. These are standalone organizations that can be funded through SOAR, statewide opioid response money. It can be SAFT block grant money into different counties. Also, the revenue from the marijuana money, or cannabis money, excuse me. Those can be funded, and these are systems where they're outside of the treatment system and that they're standalone, that somebody can come in at any time and get help and get resources and do not have to have a diagnosis. In our Medi-Cal system, they have to get a diagnosis. They have to have medical necessity. We need to create a system where they can go, and it's really our drop-in centers, our wellness centers, you know, but they're all run by peers, and they're all run by individuals that are trying to make sure that people get the resources and help. What if somebody, you know, is 5 years, you know, in recovery, hasn't used a substance, and they find themselves in despair? Where do they go? Where do they go? And let's say that their normal support system isn't available. Let's make RCOs available for individuals that if they have 1 day, 2 days, no days, 15 years, 20 years, there's a safe place for them to go. That it's not the bar. It's not, you know, anywhere that's damaging. It's a safe place that they can be. That they don't have to be diagnosed. They can just be. That it's run by peers that understand them, and we need that. It's a system that's in the East Coast. We don't see it much in the West Coast. You know, it's beyond Alano clubs. It's really a place where you can also get peer support, and you can get all kinds of multiple pathways of recovery meetings. You know, and I would look towards Oregon. They have a great system there. 4D is a great recovery club that's there. It's in Portland. It's a great model. And also I would look in Florida. Florida's using their SOAR money to fund these RCOs. And so I just really want to leave you all with that we need that, and we need to have peer certification. We need to have where, you know, peers can get certified and that they're held to a competency and a standard in the state of California for SUD. And, you know, we need to have some of the services that are not available to individuals. And, you know, and I do know that there's recovery services inside of the waiver, but I think that's inside treatment. I'm looking at it outside of that and really expand our recovery-oriented system of care in California. So thank you, and I'm gonna end with that, and I totally appreciate everybody being here, and thank you so much for being a part of the solution. And the last thing I'm gonna say is our core mission here at CCAP, or our core purpose, excuse me, is to make the world a better place by lessening the devastating effects of addiction. That's it. That's what we're all here to do. That's what you're here to do. So get out, get your voice heard, get involved, make changes. So thank you very much. And I'm going to hand it back over to Christina with a K. So Christina, it's all yours.
Everybody, what a great overview of things that's happening in California from our commander-in-chief of CCAP, our CEO. Thank you so much, Pete. So with that, we're going to go ahead and transition to our next speaker, which is our Addiction Recovery Community of California, which is ARC. And he's going to come on, Devin White. All right. Angie? All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead. Before we have Devin White come on, we're going to have Michael Sean Miller, which is going to do some music entertainment for us all. So Michael, take it away. are experiencing a little bit of difficulties getting the syncing. So we're going to see if he can come back a little bit later for a as far as the sound and stuff like that, and we'll get that all situated. So with that, we're going to continue. We want to thank you so much. We want to say thank you so much to Michael for coming on, and hopefully we'll get that all worked out for the most part. All right, so this next person that we would like to bring up is Addiction Recovery Communities of California, which is ARC, Devin Watt, which is the chair. Devin, please take it away.
Hey, thank you very much. Christina, I'm having a hard time hearing you, but I wanted to thank you for the warm introduction, and thank you for everybody being here. This Recovery Happens California Recovery Communities Rally is something very special that CCAP and ARC have been a part of for quite some time. Would like to say thank you to Ryan Hampton for your knowledge and inspiration, and really, thank you for giving us the gift of inspiration through all that you do, including through the story of your friend, Nick. Would like to thank Pete for your leadership and direction, and would also like to urge everyone to read the Safer in Treatment and Recovery and Addiction Thrives on Isolation papers that were presented in the comment section of the rally today. And last but not least, and I know we're going to hear from Sean Miller, but thank you for your songs and your inspiration of hope once we get that audio working. So I do, again, want to say that my name is Devin Waite, and I am a person in long-term recovery, and everything that I have of value in my life today is a result of being in long-term recovery. I entered into recovery on November 2nd, 2002. And I'm truly grateful for the support and resources from the recovery community. And to that extent, I'm here to give back and to be active. And I know that a lot of you are as well too. So again, thank you for being here. I'm also the chair of the Addiction Recovery Communities of California. We refer to it as ARC. We like acronyms sometimes in the recovery community. So ARC is a committee of CCAP, and CCAP is the California Consortium of Addiction Programs and Professionals. But our committee is focused on recovery-related issues, such as improving the operation of recovery residences and promoting the recovery movement. Specifically, our mission statement is to support the membership of sober living coalitions, registration, and proper operation of sober living environments in California, and provide guidance and insight on recovery-related issues to the California Consortium of Addiction Programs and Professionals Legislative Committee in the face of legislative activity. So recovery residences, otherwise known as sober livings or sober living environments, we all know they're a critical part of the recovery process. And ARC, ARCC, is the NAR, or National Association of Recovery Residences affiliate. And so we work with sober living recovery residence coalitions, networks, all the way down south to San Diego and up north towards Sacramento. And we partner with them on and CCAP on certifying the their recovery residences by coming into compliance with the NAR standards. And a little bit later on in the rally, I think we're going to hear from Dave Sheridan, who's the CEO of NAR, and they're doing great things. And so we really love supporting CCAP and getting some standardization around recovery residences. Again, we support this rally, and we really enjoy to see its growth year over year. And this is great. We love being in this virtual environment, And I really, do feel like I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with all of you out in front of the state capitol. We promote peer certification and education. As Pete had mentioned, that's a really important piece of what we do. And then last but not least, before I get into a little bit of legislation, we're considered the RCO, or the statewide recovery community organization, providing support to other RCOs. And in fact, one of our committee members is really heavily involved with an RCO, and these organizations provide great support for persons in recovery and the recovery community. Our work with the CCAP legislative committee is extensive, and this committee partners. We expect the bill one day will go through requiring recovery residences to become certified. We have watched other states do this, and we expect it to come to our great state of California one day. And so, we're always on the forefront of that, and that's why we've created the CCAP certification and help promote it. CCAP does a great job of helping recovery residences come into compliance with the NAR standards. We also advocate at the local city zoning and planning level. And whenever we get the call of a discriminatory ordinance being created, we corroborate resources and try to educate those in power over these local communities. And ultimately, we do our best to try to fight discriminatory ordinances. We wholeheartedly believe that persons in recovery have the right to live together, they have the right to recover together, and they have the right to be recognized as able and active members of our community and society. And whenever this is not recognized or a barrier is put up, we do our best to lower that barrier and or eliminate it altogether. There is a lot of advocates out there that are there to protect our rights. You're going to hear from a lot of them today, and I just want to urge you, as the chair of ARC, to get involved. Latch on to some of the resources and some of the activities that the other speakers are talking about today. Read those papers that were put into the comments. Please let us know if there's anything we can do to support you. Our voices matter, and we are stronger together. And last but not least, I really urge you to go and visit calrecovery.org to learn more about the addiction recovery communities of California. So without further ado, I just want to thank you, Christina, and everyone for allowing me to speak.
All right.
I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Bevan. We love you so much, and all the information that you do. And ARC Recovery, ARCC, which is Addiction Recovery Community of California. Please reach out to Devin, as he's the chair, and get involved. Get involved at whatever level that you'd like. Thank you so much, Devin, okay? All right, so rolling along. It's 11:11, and are we feeling jazzed and pumped already? I hope so, right? So our 28th annual Recovery Happens kickoff. We have heard from really amazing people, and we're about to hear from some more amazing people. So I like to bring up an individual that's amazing, that is a part of the National Alliance for Recovery Residents, which is NAR, has oversight basically of the nation, which is pretty awesome for sober livings. So that's Dave Sheraton, which is the executive director of NAR. Dave, would you please join me?
Christina, can you hear me?
I see you.
It says
I can
only
hear
two
you, but I can't see
webcams
you yet.
can
I
you
can see
display.
Devin. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take my webcam off, and and then go ahead and jump on right now, okay?
Well, thank you, Christina, and thank you everybody for being here today. I'm really excited to be here and to add my voice to this amazing panel of advocates. We're here today to celebrate the miracle of recovery. Millions of Americans have recovered from the disease of addiction and lead full lives today as valued members of their community because they're in recovery. So people can and do recover, but we don't all get that chance. Whether you work in recovery or you're engaged in advocacy or you support the recovery movement, first of all, thank you for all you do. This work is really important to me because I'm also a person in long-term recovery. And my recovery has been the key to a life of purpose and fulfillment, both but it was something I didn't think was possible for me 24 years ago when I began this journey. And today, our recovery community enriches my life in ways I can't even begin to describe. Also today, the national organization I lead, which is NAR, we work to bring standards and technical assistance to recovery housing across the country. We're also engaged in policy advocacy and policy development at the national and state levels. We're powered by a national network of dedicated volunteers from all walks of life. And CCAP was a founding organization of NAR back almost 10 years ago. But we've developed a set of national standards for best practices, a code of ethics. We work on legislation for recovery housing support and for consumer protection. We developed a state model for support, for state recognition and financial support and organizational support for good recovery residences. And our goal is to make recovery housing part of our healthcare system. And currently it's not viewed that way. Devin talked a little bit about that. Pete talked a little bit about that. And I loved what Ryan had to say about his personal experience in a sober living home in California. We've also been busy, obviously, in the COVID crisis, providing a lot of epidemic-related information to our state groups and to operators to help them get through, developing some new emergency practices. And I'd like to thank CCAP for their role in that. They've been hosting a weekly call for providers and interested people from all over the state. And they're rolling out our new standard as we speak, statewide. I got the help I needed when I needed it, but many people currently don't. They're not so lucky. You know, our addiction crisis has gotten worse, not better under COVID. You know, it's disrupted the lives of people in recovery in ways including being separated from their activities, their loved ones, their friends, their connections, their jobs. It's also harmed the system of delivery because a lot of people who lose jobs can't afford to pay for recovery housing. And that strains operators and adds a lot of stress to the system. We've also had cases of COVID outbreaks in residences, although not anywhere near as bad as we thought they were going to be. But it's really disrupted the pipeline of people trying to get from a crisis into early recovery and then into sustained recovery as people are finding it hard to find resources and a lot of the options are either virtual or not available to them. A little bit of a tidbit that touches on the fact that despite COVID, our addiction crisis has not taken a break. We hear from SAMHSA, which is the part of the Department of Health and Human Services that supports recovery activities, treatment, mental health, that calls to their various helplines during the crisis are up over 1,000%. And that says there's people out there desperate for the work you all do. They're not all able to connect with us because of a lot of institutional barriers. But that's a big number. For every call they were getting before, they're getting 10. And my plea to you today is to get involved. You know, your voice matters and your experience is powerful. I've seen it for myself. I got involved in recovery housing as a volunteer about 15 years ago. An organization similar to CCAP that supported about 400 recovery residences. In 2007, the city of LA, a couple of city council members decided they wanted to introduce a citywide ordinance that would have made it difficult to impossible for a lot of people to operate. And as a result, you know, we rallied the troops, we got together with CCAP, and we were able to change that. We overflowed a lot of city council meetings and city planning meetings and council members' offices. And what that bill was supposed to be, which was disguised as a mere zoning ordinance, we turned into a civil rights issue. But we couldn't have done that on our own. It took your voices. You know, we were able to muster, when we needed to, 300 people for hearings, and it meant the city had to open up new space. And then once they realized that the dynamic had changed, their stance on the issue changed. Also like to acknowledge Ryan Hampton and thank him for the work he's doing. He didn't mention it in his remarks, but through his efforts, the Clinton Foundation is launching a national effort to ensure that all sober living homes will have Narcan and people trained in its use. And that's a huge deal. As you heard, what he went through, and his friend Nick unfortunately isn't with us anymore because Narcan wasn't available. So this is going to be a real game changer. We've also worked with Ryan at the federal and California levels on some pretty important legislation to crack down on some of the abusive practices that exploit people in recovery. And we also got some federal legislation 2 years ago that establishes the need for best practice standards and formulated a set of principles that we're hoping more people adopt and follow. You know, stigma and discrimination are real obstacles for people with SUD trying to get the help they need. And because of that stigma, discrimination against us is one of the few remaining permissible areas of discrimination against people for either disabilities or other characteristics that make us different, that make people look at us differently. And that includes our access to health care. Substance abuse services are still not treated the same under insurance law or insurance practice, despite the fact that the law says they need to be. And recovery support services are generally not covered. And a lot of you are maybe too young to remember this, but the reason America finally addressed its AIDS crisis wasn't primarily because of lawmakers or scientists. It was because hundreds of thousands of people raised their voices and demonstrated and insisted that we treat AIDS like the public health crisis it was. And in that same vein, advocates in California and nationally are doing amazing work to expand access to recovery. CCAP's been doing some amazing work building relationships with legislatures, statewide organizations, administrative agencies. But in a lot of places, our voices get drowned out because there are other competing interests that have louder voices than we do, because they have deeper pockets. And that includes the pharmaceutical industry, doctors and medical groups. But what we have is passion. And in order to achieve the dreams that Pete was talking about and that Devin mentioned, we lack in California a potent grassroots recovery advocacy movement. And what you were hearing just a few minutes ago was the beginnings of hoping to change that. We see a lot of progress around the country, and sometimes it's frustrating when we're able to work with some smaller states, and in some cases states that are viewed as less progressive, making incredible progress. In West Virginia, we were able recently to bring about some changes in their COVID-related policies on treatment. And I can see Christina appeared, so I'm going to skip to the, thank you. I appreciate you doing that because you know me, Christina. I'll talk forever if you let me. But
you're amazing too. So we appreciate you, Dave. You are amazing and heading off all the sober living and the information, and being CCAP is, being an affiliate of NAR. We really appreciate you coming and sharing your message with all of us for sober living.
And I hope to join everybody next year on the steps of the Capitol. Thank you very much.
That's right. Thank you so much, Dave. Once again, he is the executive director of NAR, which is the National Alliance for Recovery Residents. I'm also known as Sober Living, but Recovery Residents. So thanks so much, Dave. So with that, our next speaker we have is coming from us from Faces and Voices. And this particular person is Philip Rutherford, which is the Chief Operating Officer at Faces and Voices. Philip, would you please join me? All right. All right, Philip, take it away. Your mic on. I'll let you know when we can hear you. Not yet. Not yet. We can't hear you yet.
Phil, make sure that the gear icon up in the upper right, check that to make sure that your mic is turned on there. And it's set to the right one, because I know sometimes it chooses a different output.
So I just changed over to my MacBook, and that one
Perfect.
seems to be working. The other one was with the camera, but it looks like I see the thing jumping.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
now.
Take it away. Thank you, Philip.
So I feel like the Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? So, my name is Phil Rutherford. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Faces and Voices of Recovery. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. And I just want to take a second. I really appreciated what Christina did at the beginning. She mentioned paying honor to a couple of tribes, and I've been doing some homework about where I live. So Faces and Voices is based in Washington, D.C., but I operate out of a home office in Rochester, Minnesota, and the land that I live on belongs to the Ojibwe tribe here in Minnesota. And I just wanted to call that out and pay honor to that. So I don't know if everyone's familiar with Faces and Voices of Recovery. We're a national advocacy organization. We operate in a number of states around the country. We partnered with CCAP on a number of things. And what we do is we try and promote the cause of peer recovery support at the federal level, and sometimes we partner with other organizations to do that work at the state level too. One of the things we're doing, it's Recovery Month, and this year, for the first time in 30 years, SAMHSA, the government agency focused on substance use disorder and mental health, stepped away from supporting Recovery Month, and we, along with some other stakeholders, have sort of picked up the torch and are attempting to promote Recovery Month on our own. So I mentioned that because if you have Recovery Month events that you'd like to have national visibility, please go to nationalrecoverymonth.org and enter information about your event, and then people around the country can see it, people in your area can see it. I think there are almost 200 events out there now, and we'd love to have people put more and more information on there. So we're excited to be able to participate in that and support that because it is an important thing. There's also a Facebook page and a Twitter handle and all of the other social media things that go along with that. So one of the other things that Faces and Voices of Recovery does is that we support recovery community organizations, and there are a few that are members of our association. They're in California. I'll just call them out. There's a New Path down in Southern California, Voices of Recovery San Mateo in Northern, Mariposa, which is northern but inland a bit, and Solano Recovery Project. And I call them out just to give them a shout out, but also because we think that the work of recovery community organizations and that sort of grassroots level work is super important. And I heard Dave mention it, and I've been hearing this theme through everyone. Dave mentioned it, Pete mentioned it, Ryan did, Devin did as well. That this idea of kind of getting involved at a personal level and carrying the torch of recovery forward is really important, and that's something that we've we've seen it. And I know that, I mean, that's how you get on this call, right? I don't want to preach to the choir. So I know that you're on this call because you're committed, but I cannot understate the importance of getting involved at a base level and trying to promote the recovery movement. I can't remember if it was Dave or Pete. Someone mentioned what Florida is doing. One of the things that we're working with Florida to promote recovery community organizations at a state level. So they decided that they were going to try and like typically recovery community organizations start organically. So someone looks around at their community and says, well, for lack of a better term, they say, I've had enough and I want some recovery supports in my area and I'm not getting what I need to get. So I'm going to start this organization and my budget is zero. So let's go. It's typically how they start, but Florida decided to use some of their SOAR money to do that. And I think they started with about 5, and I was just on a call with them today, and about a little bit less than 2 years later, they're at 35 of these organizations. So it can be done, and that brings me to my next point, that it's really important to support these organizations. And I know that not everyone here wants to hear the whole budget story, and it's kind of what I do at Faces and Voices. I chase the money. But the approach to substance use disorder nationally, even with lawmakers that I talked to today on the Hill, there's still this concept that someone has substance use disorder, great, let's get them some treatment for a short period of time, maybe a titch of aftercare, and they're good. And we know that works for some, and we support that. That's great. If that's sufficient support, wonderful. We're happy about it. In my case, that took, I won't tell you how many times that took, but that took a few more times for me. And I needed, and some people call it chronic care, but I like the term longitudinal care. It took some recovery supports along the way for me. So it's really important, these organizations, and the idea of having longitudinal care and care along a continuum is really important. And that's why this grassroots RCO work matters. Just to give you an idea, before I got on the call, I was taking a look at a report that the Inspector General's office did on there are a couple of grants that the federal government did. One was called the State Targeted Response to Opioids. And the other was called, I think, the State Opioid Response. So STR and SOR. And for California, so nationally, so money was distributed, and nationally, $300 million was left on the table. So the federal government said, hey, states, here's a bunch of money, and take it and spend it on the opioid crisis. Here's the money. $300 million of that went back to the federal government because states did not use it. California actually returned 50% of their money. And I don't know if I'm running out of time. Christina's here. Okay, I'll be quick. That's like getting the hook at the Showtime at the Apollo. Some of you are probably too young to know that. Anyway, 50% of their funds went back to the federal government. And specifically, when I looked at the numbers, and this is an Inspector General's report, the numbers could be off a bit, but of that money, 35% went to prevention, 65% went to treatment, and 0% went to recovery. So just let that number soak over you a little bit. And that is why, much like Ryan said, and others have said, that is why it's important to get engaged with politicians and talk about where the money is going for recovery. Anyway, thank you. I'm really glad to be here. Have a great rest of the day.
Awesome, Philip. Well, CCAP wants to thank Faces and Voices, and also you, Philip, personally. Thanks for all the work that you do with all the different RCO and advocacy that you do on a state and national level. Thank you so much, okay?
Thanks.
All right, so with that, we're going to go transition to a break, but we have a short video that's probably 1 minute. And then after that, we're going to be doing some giveaways. Who doesn't want free stuff? I know I love free stuff, okay? So we'll be giving away T-shirts, masks, trainings, conferences. So you're not going to want to miss this. You have to be present to win. And we have a list of different people that are online right now that could win. So for that, we're going to go ahead and play this video. It's one of our sponsors from the Phoenix, as we see on the very bottom. Some of our sponsors, BHAP, CCAP, Faces and Voices, the Phoenix, Young People in Recovery, and ARC. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and play this video for you. All right.
They said I was weak.
I was just running away from my problems.
I was going down the wrong path.
They might have even thought I was at the top of my game.
And that I was in complete control.
But we said, we're stronger than...
Stronger than isolation.
Stronger than shame.
We are stronger than stigma. Since 2006, our free, sober, active community has inspired over 22,000 people across America to rise above addiction and harness the power of self-transformation. Above all else, though, we believe that sobriety is something to be proud of. So what are you stronger than? Whether you're in recovery or you're supporting someone who is, share your story using the hashtag #StrongerThan. We are the Phoenix, and together we are stronger than stigma. Rise with us.
So with that said, that was an awesome video about the Phoenix. So thank you. One shout out to, of course, the Phoenix, Rise, Recover, and Live. Thank you so much for being one of the sponsors this year on the 28th Annual Recovery Happens. So with further ado, who doesn't like free stuff? This is the time where if you need to go to the bathroom, go get some chips or get some food or get veggies, whatever you need to do, you can do that. But the flip side of it is, too, you could win some things. So we're going to give some stuff out right now that we're super excited to do. I don't know about you, but COVID-19 has gotten into everybody, whether it's they can't go to work and they got to be remote from home, or they got to wear, particular mask and all different kind of stuff. So CCAP went ahead and said, you know what? We're going to go ahead and give away some masks today. So I don't know. Does anybody want one of these masks that say CCAP? I think these are phenomenal masks. They are really comfortable. And I think we're going to give away 20 masks today. So if you want a mask, put your name in the chat box really quick. Look at, I see Valerie, Dallas. I see Chaplain, Nicole, Maria. Everybody's like, yeah, me, right? So I'm going to have Larry. Larry's going to assist me in this measure. I'm going to be giving some stuff away in the next, we're going to make this quick in the next 5 to 6 minutes. So you need to be present to win. I'm going to go ahead and have him stick some of the winners inside of the side of the chat box, okay? So thank you so much for those that want to win. Once again, welcome for whoever just joined us right now for the 28th Annual Recovery Happens. So let's give some free stuff away. Who's ready? I know I'm ready. I love to give stuff away. So here we go. All right. So we're going to give 20 masks away. So Larry, can you drop down 20 random people that have been phenomenal, that's been on the call, for this rally? Let's get this rally started. So 20 and boom, there you go. So right there on the side, on the right side, if you want a mask, I'm going to go ahead and drop my assistant's email on the side, and Angie or we'll go ahead and have Larry put my assistant's email, which is edu@CCAP. We will need you to email her, which is, her name is Monica, but you can just say, hey, I won it, and we will check your name on this call, and also that you won these masks. And guess what? You're going to get a wonderful CCAP mask. What do you know about that? It's going to be exciting. You can wash it. We also sell these too, but for the most part, we're doing it for the raffle. All right. So if you won, congratulations. Make sure that Angie or if you could, Larry, put edu@ccap.us. Say, hey, I won Christina's raffle, the 28th, the CCAP raffle that you did at Recovery Happens. So once again, look on the side. There's Felipe, Warren, Randy, Connie, Mercedes. I love Mercedes, by the way. That's a nice name. Elaine, Kellen, with a K, Lisa, Meg, Alberto, Mitri, Diana, Shelly, Dwight, Dawn, Stacy, Tony, Delia, Nia, Christine, and Christy with a K. All right. So if I just said your name, and yes, there's a last name to it, but we're going to keep this party going. You want a mask. All right. That's exciting. So what else are we going to give away? Because I'm excited to give away some stuff. Let's give away some t-shirts. I know today I'm flossing my polo, which is the CCAP with the Recovery Happens, which is amazing because recovery does happen. It is a lifestyle and not an event, but we are having an event today to celebrate our lifestyle. So there's that, right? So 10 t-shirts, I'm going to give it away. If you win, you go ahead and just stick your name on the, I stick the EDU at CCAP, which is my assistant, Monica, and we'll put that on the side. So Larry, drum roll please, with the 10 people that will win t-shirts. Now, I want to remind you, polos are for sale, which is the one I have on, okay? But we do have a t-shirt that I will have to pull here in a minute, so you will see what t-shirt. It's a Recovery Happens t-shirt. We give them out every year. We sell them. They're exciting. So with Larry, with further ado, go ahead and drop our 10 people that won t-shirts on the side in the chat box. Yay, Larry. Boom. So I've got Steve, Mark, Holly, Stefan, Ashley, Francis, Rudy, Mothering, Ted, and Ashley. So if I just called your name, you got to make sure you got to check the last name too. But if I just called your name, you just want a Recovery Happens t-shirt, okay? Just to be clear, it's not a polo, but it's a t-shirt for 2020. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. I'll even try to go grab one so I can go ahead and put it up here. And if Craig Corey, which I know he's here, he'd be rocking that with his shorts and a visor, walking around making sure everything's good. So shout out to Craig. All right. So another thing is what CCAP does is we give out conferences. Who wants a free conference? The California Addiction Conferences we have every year. This year was supposed to be at the Hyatt Mission Bay. But guess what? COVID struck and we had to reinvent the wheel. And so what we did is CCAP took their platform online. So this is a $300 or $400 conference that you will be getting just because you went ahead and attended Recovery Happens today. So we're excited to have you. One of the things, and so that particular person that won the California Addiction Conference for this year, because we're going to keep it moving and grooving and whipping and dipping, and this is like $300 or $400 worth. Who doesn't want that? Whether you're a professional in this or you want to learn more about yourself or maybe even get into this profession, right? And that person that won a $300 to $400 conference that will be online with us October the 22nd through the 25th will be Rhonda Gonzalez. Rhonda Gonzalez, if you're there, congratulations from CCAP. We cannot wait to have you as a guest at our conference. Those that have not registered for our conference, it's a 4-day conference coming up. We'll have a recovery track. It does talk, it's all about all the different addiction and, mixed in with mental health, which we call brain health. And you're not going to want to miss it. Trust me. All right. So then another one we have is the CATM that we want to go ahead and give out. Okay. So one of the things that we want to give out is the CATM, which is a marketing certification, which is great. And that particular winner is going to be Lauren Hundolf. So if I butchered your last name, I apologize. If I see you in person, we'll talk about it. We'll work through it. But for the most part, Lorraine, you are our winner for that particular certification. We will make sure that you go ahead and email edu@ccap.us. Also, our CEO has went ahead and put in the chat box, ccapconferences.com. If you want to go ahead and register for our conference or any of the events that we have coming up, please do at ccapconferences.com. Okay. All right. Another thing that we have, I want to give away too and keep things rolling, is we have an LGBTQ certificate that we give out and we do 2 times a year. This one's going to be December 1st through the 4th. It's a 4-day training, about 5.5 hours, and you'll get a certificate. And I actually train on, you'll spend the days with me for the most part. So that particular person, and I think it's about a $200 to $250 value. And I see the chat's going wild right now. That's right. Keep it up. This is a rally. Get excited. Win some stuff. Just for actually coming here and being a part of our CCAP family, and all of you are family. Regardless of the fact of what profession you hold, whether you're 1 day or 1 hour sober or drug-free, you are with us. You are a part of the CCAP family. Just remember that, and you're not alone. Always remember that. You have us, all right? So let's give away this LGBT certificate, all right? Yes. Much love. CCAP strong. All right, Nora Fernandez, you won the LGBT certificate, and we'll be spending 4 days along with about 30 to 50 other people getting that certificate. All right, we also, CCAP has a winter series coming up that's about $150 value of all these different wonderful speakers. But if you're a member, you get it for free. But even if you win right now, you get it for free. So who wants to win that and get some continuing education to certify? Or if you aren't certified through us and you're a guest today and you're with us, one of the things is that you will learn more about the profession and what we're doing. And I love it's just blowing up in the chat box. All right, so for the winter series, I have Charnette, Simmons Abul. So if that is you, Charnette Simmons Abul, email us edu@ccap.us. We would love to make sure to give that $150 value winner series that's happening. CCAP right now has the summer series, the end of summer series happening, but there's that piece. All right, and then wrapping up our stuff and moving on, because we're going to hear from a really awesome person. We're going to kick off. Who wants to win some more free stuff, right? Let me see it right in the chat box. All right, go ahead and give away five BHAP individual membership, which is, I believe, Angie, it's around 100. Is it $100 value about for the year? And those 5 people, drum roll please, that'll be and that's actually the Behavioral Health Association of Providers. And that's a national brand of membership, education, and advocacy in the behavioral health realm, okay? So we're going to give out 5 individual ones. And Larry, can you go ahead and put one in the chat box for me? Louis, Mario, Lamont, Anna, and Jaya. Congratulations from CCAP and CCAP and BHAP. You are going to be an individual member as well. All right. So if you did not catch our giveaways, I'll have Larry go ahead and put all the winners in the chat box. We're going to continue this rally and continue our party started in the best way we know how, okay? With love, information, different stuff we're doing on legislation. So with further ado, I want to go ahead and bring up somebody. And I see somebody on film right now. But for the most part, we have a particular person, Sherry Daly, that will be joining us. And I see some people want to know about the mask and the different stuff. You can purchase the mask. We'll be putting that on our website and stuff afterwards. But if you want it, we will give you the information, okay? All right. So our next speaker, I want to go ahead and introduce. This particular person is actually the Vice President of Government Affairs of Corporate Communications. And that is Sherry Daly. That's very awesome that will be speaking. And we will have her join us right now. If Sherry, you could go ahead and join us and put your cam on. All right.
Thank you, Christina. I'll try and make it quick because we have our wonderful state administrator from the Department of Healthcare Services up after me, and I want to give her plenty of time. I just want to circle back about what we're all here for, and that is to continue and to create a movement. And we need to talk about why we need to have this movement, and we also need to talk about how we make this a movement. So why? The white paper on Addiction Thrives on Isolation will give you all the numbers you could ever need. Addiction goes up during recession in general. This is proven. This isn't my guess. This isn't our maybe it's going to happen. It goes up during recession. People use substances more when they lose their job. That's a proven fact. There are also things called temporal spikes, like when we had the Oklahoma City bombing, when we had 9/11, that kind of trauma or national trauma also drives rates up. So it's not even a question that we're going to start seeing more cases of addiction as we move through this pandemic. So what do we do about trying to encourage changes to deal with the epidemic? Let's take a look at other movements that are going on right now. There's tons of them, right? We have Black Lives Matter. At every BLM rally or march, we see LGBTQ flags. We see Trans Lives Matter. We have students marching against gun violence. We had the Me Too movement earlier this year. All of these movements had one thing in common. They all said, we've had enough. This is wrong. It's blatantly wrong. People are dying, people are suffering, and it has to stop. And we're in that same unique position to ask the same sort of questions. Right now we have national leaders. We have legislators here at the state level. We had Melania Trump at the Republican National Convention last week, spent 5 minutes talking about addiction and how horrible it is and how people die from it and how they need to get over shame and come out and ask for help. But guess what's not happening? We're talking about the problem. People are dying. More people are going to die, but no one's talking about the solution. So we need to step up our game to some extent. We need to say it's not acceptable to have these deaths. We need to have legislators, people in public, the president's wife, finish the sentence. People are dying from this disease. So what is going to happen? What is the response to those deaths? Ask every policymaker that you know who talks about addiction to finish the sentence, please. Okay, we all found out there's a problem, but nobody's talking about a solution. So some things I can ask you to do. Well, let's just take an example. So COVID deaths, they're horrible, right? We don't want anybody to die from COVID. So the state of California spent $12 million to take over the Sleep Train Arena, which is in our Sacramento area, to provide 400 beds in case people needed them for COVID. 9 patients came. I'm not criticizing the administration for preparing for the pandemic. I think it was a really good thing to do. It ended up helping 9 people. We didn't have the great influx that we thought we would, but where's the same preparation for what we know is coming with increased deaths from addiction from the beginning of this pandemic till the end? We are already in an opioid epidemic. We are already losing 80,000 people a year to alcohol deaths. Where is that same preparation? And why are we, as recovering people, not demanding that same sort of value for people's lives that are at risk from addiction? So I challenge you all today to do 2 things. Go to a local city council meeting. Just go during the public comment period and talk about your recovery story. Bring some pictures of your kids. Bring some pictures of you at work or volunteering. Everyone gets 3 to 5 minutes at every single local meeting. We can't wait to lobby when there's a problem. We need to let people who are making policy decisions know who we are. Second thing is find out who your legislator is, and I will post a link where you can go and find out who your legislator is. Contact them now. They just wrapped up session on the 31st. So they're all back in their districts. They're having a little breather here for a couple of days. You can have a video appointment with them. Some of them let you come into their offices with proper social distancing. Now's your time. Go in and talk to them. Tell them, we see these deaths. Here's the white paper. We know hundreds of thousands of people are going to die if something isn't done. We all hands on deck for COVID. We need all hands on deck for this. So we have the resources for you. I will give you a link to find your legislator. It's up to you to take it beyond listening into action, and that's what I would ask for you today. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from Dr. Pfeiffer.
All right, thank you so much, Sherry. If nobody knew, and you just jumped on really quick, Sherry's the Vice President of Governmental Affairs and Corporate Communications for CCAP. Thank you so much again, Sherry. All right, so ready up for our next speaker. We're really excited. We have the DHCS, Department of Healthcare Services, on board today, and the Deputy Director, and I'd like to bring her up right now, which is Kelly Pfeiffer. Kelly, please join me.
Thank you. It is such an honor to be here, and I love this energy. I don't think I've ever seen like a web conference with this much energy. So I'm really inspired by being in the room with so many people on this difficult journey and these difficult times. So I joined the California Department of Healthcare Services a year ago, and I remember there was some skepticism. You're like, what does a medical doctor know about recovery? And won't you get stuck on the conversations with people testing waters to see if I understood the recovery community? And these conversations and the times that we're in made me start thinking about where our country was 100 years ago. So I wanted to pause and reflect on a little bit of history and then talk about what the state is doing to support recovery. So think about who we were in the 1920s in the US. A generation of people suffered deep personal trauma, shell shock from the Great War, the grief of millions lost in the flu pandemic. The Civil War was recent memory, and lynch mobs were enforcing racial segregation. The Great Depression stole away the pride of being able to earn a living. And this repetitive trauma creates a profound stress response in the body. So what do people do when they're stressed? They self-medicated, and addiction was a growing epidemic. So many models emerged to treat the problem. So we had the temperance movement, which believed that alcoholism was a character flaw, and the path to recovery required total abstinence, and the message was go to church and be a good husband. So the treatment for addiction was religion. And then the US changed the Constitution to make alcohol illegal. Addiction became a crime. People struggling with addiction became criminals, so the treatment for addiction was jail. And then the recovery movement emerged, developing a path to recovery through self-reflection and support from peers and community, so the treatment for addiction was 12 steps. And then in the last decades, we've learned more about the brain and how it works and neurochemistry, and for some addictions, medications work, and the treatment for some addictions became the medical model, medications and counseling. So each of these models exist today, and each of these models save lives. And so I imagine there's people in this room who would not be alive today were it not the influence of God and church. And there's others who were saved through 12 steps and the community it provided. Others saw doctors and are living productive lives because of the medical model. And while we're trying to reform our system so that addiction doesn't lead to jail time, I've had people tell me that being arrested was the trigger to allow them to change their lives. So I've learned a lot about humility, that there's many roads to recovery. And while each of these models have saved lives, rigid adherence to only one model at the exclusion of all else has cost lives. And yes, I have some examples from my personal experience and from my time treating patients where, one example, a middle-aged man spent years with a Vicodin addiction and he finally got a job with insurance so he could get buprenorphine. But the doctor he saw didn't believe in maintenance. Gave him a 30-day supply, said you should be cured by now, refused to give him a refill, and he died of an overdose 2 weeks after he ran out of pills. A woman I know was caught driving under the influence and sentenced to 90 meetings in 90 days. And she was a sexual abuse survivor and was so traumatized by that particular experience, the meeting culture there of being torn down to be built back up, that she committed suicide soon after treatment because of the deep shame she felt. And as you know, we're seeing high rates of despair and suicide among LGBTQ youth, excluded from some religious traditions, growing up believing they deserve contempt and shame. So while each of the models that we have save lives, there are others who are not in our room today because some of the models have serious limitations if used to the exclusion of all others. So we at the state really believe in embracing all models. We need all of them because there's not one path to recovery. There's not one size that fits all. And so thinking, as Sherry mentioned, about these times that we're in that feel so much like 100 years ago, where we're in a pandemic, we're in a great kind of crossroads in our world of thinking about race and racism and the impact on us and our communities, where people are losing their livelihoods. There's so much trauma that's happening right now. There's so much self-medication, increase in overdoses. And I'm so excited to be part of this recovery event so we can focus on that treatment works, that recovery works, and that the tent is big enough for all of us. So those of us who got here because of God, because of 12-step, because of medical treatment, because of native healing traditions, we need all of them, and our tent needs to be big enough for all of us. So the state is absolutely committed to making sure that everyone who is suffering from a substance use disorder gets the treatment they need and the path to recovery they need. And so I want to talk about a few ways that our state is working on this. Because unlike, I think, previous administrations, behavioral health is front and center in the Newsom administration. So as you may remember, a year ago, we launched CalAIM, and this was our bold effort to redesign the Medi-Cal program to fulfill its promise. And we worked on proposals and worked with consumer advocates and providers and counties, like what's not working in Medi-Cal and how to make it better. And just as we were about to get our proposal ready to go to the feds and say, this is what we want to do different, COVID hit. So we immediately pivoted to making sure that everyone can get what they need without delay by telephone, by telehealth, in person only if it's safe. And this is a huge culture shift. So we worked really hard with consumers, providers, counties, and the community. Like, how do you do this when our treatment model really was largely focused on in-person groups? So how do you engage people? How do you do assessments? How do you do these types of sessions through telehealth? And I'm so proud. I mean, this could have taken decades, and California, in a matter of weeks, made sure that people could get what they need by telephone and telehealth. There was a comment about opioids. I do want to say that it's not that we gave the money back, but that 50%, it just took us a little longer to get some of those projects going. But we're using every opioid dollar to make sure that throughout our healthcare system and throughout tribal communities and everywhere in California, we're tackling the problem of opioid overdoses. And we've given so much naloxone out that we're now close to 20,000 lives saved through reversals. And that's honestly probably an undercount. So we're really working hard on the opioid epidemic. And then finally, I'm so inspired by our new director. For those of you who don't know Will Lightbourne, he spent his life tackling the hard challenges of the most oppressed in our communities, which are those in child welfare and the foster system. And every conversation he has, he's talking about equity and the tremendous cost of structural racism on individuals and communities, and making sure that we do the work that we need to do to make sure that everybody gets treatment, and that your race doesn't determine whether you're sent to jail or you get treatment or you're allowed the path to recovery. So there's so much work to do, but we are committed. We want to continue to work closely with CCAP and the faces and voices of recovery. We need the voices of consumers to guide the work that we do. So I want to thank you for inviting me to your celebration. Again, it's a real honor to be here.
And before you run off, we would like to honor you with an award. And I just have to tell a very short story about the first time that I met you, because I didn't have a question about you being a doctor, but I think people need to understand out there that when Pete and I first met you, you listened to us like a doctor would, and like one of those really good doctors that when you're suffering, when you need help, when you want to talk about what's going on with your body or your mind, to have that friendly, caring person to put you first and concentrate on you really shows through all the work you do for the department. It really does. It's always, when we talk to Kelly, it's sorry for calling you Kelly, Dr. Pfeiffer. When we talk to you, we always know your brain is on the person, on the client, not on me and Pete. We're always at the department whining about whatever we're wanting next Tuesday. But you're always thinking about the client. And those are the people we have online here today. And that's what this event is about, is people in recovery. And we can see that in everything you do. So today we are presenting you with our Architect of Recovery Award. It's for somebody who fixes the system, who challenges the norm and really tries to change the whole way that we treat addiction. And I wish we were here in person so that I could hand you this beautiful plaque, but I will read you what it says on the plaque, if I can get it up here. For your dedication to improving the treatment of addiction in California through the implementation of the organized delivery system, and for your care and concern for those recovering from addiction during the COVID-19 pandemic, we award you the Architect of Recovery Award for Recovery Happens. And thank you so much for coming in.
It's hugely meaningful to me. Thank you. It's so unexpected, and I'm so appreciative. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for this recognition.
And thank you for coming.
Right. So really quick, wait, if we could go ahead, Pete is actually going to jump on really quick. And Pete Nielsen, our CEO, if we could go ahead and keep, there we go. There's the award. All right, awesome. We wanted to go ahead and go ahead, Pete, take it away. All right, so Kelly, that was for you. Pete went ahead and put that up there for Dr. Kelly Pfeiffer. Thank you so much for being a part of our event. All right. Okay, so what we'll go ahead and keep it going, and we're really excited to have all of our speakers, and thank you, DHCS. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Pete, for coming on and putting that information up and that award. So our next speaker comes to us from Sacramento County, and Ryan, and his name is Ryan Quest, and he's the Behavioral Health Director. All right, thank you. Welcome, Ryan, to the platform. Take it away. There you go. I'll let you know. Not yet, almost. There we go. All right, it's all yours.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Very excited to be here as well, and like to echo, excuse me, Dr. Pfeiffer's sentiments. I just love the energy that's on here, and miss seeing you all in person, but the energy is coming through, and really enjoying that. I need to take a moment, and I know that we've touched on it a little bit, but I just need to acknowledge that 2020 has been a difficult year. COVID, on top of all our really stressful conversations around social justice, on top of our fires, and I hope you and your families are all safe where you're at right now. And then on top of all that, we're experiencing unprecedented concerns and stress as it relates to money, whether it's personal finances, as it relates to potentially losing employment or loss of income for you or maybe for somebody in your family. And then on top of that, we're also seeing huge reductions in the amount of funds that are going to be coming to counties in order to be able to do this kind of work. So I'm representing Sacramento County and also work very closely with my colleagues in other counties around the state. And we want to express that, you know, we can't do this without you, and we really appreciate all the work that you're doing. Want to thank CCAP for sponsoring this meeting every year and making sure that it's front and center, that recovery does happen. Wanted to thank Dr. Kelly Pfeiffer for all of her work in this area. You can't imagine what a great advocate we have in Department of Healthcare Services, and she mentioned some of it around the flexibilities that Department of Healthcare Services have helped create for us to be able to continue to do the work that we're doing, that you're doing out there in the community, and we couldn't have done it without her leadership. So want to make sure that we're thanking her. Want to continue to thank all of our Board of Supervisors around the state that continue to support substance use prevention and treatment services. This is something that our communities need, and our leadership continues to support us in making sure that these services are available to our communities when they need these services. Want to thank all of our providers for the resiliency, the absolute resiliency that they have demonstrated in making such immediate and instant adjustments to this COVID era in terms of being able to continue to make sure that the services are available to those in our communities that need it. We switched to phone and video telehealth so quickly, learned, as other people were talking about, learned how to try on a new pair of shoes and figure out how we're going to do this in this new era. And it's so interesting, all the different solutions and strategies that people are coming up with, how to do virtual group sessions, and how to make sure that we're continuing to meet the needs of vulnerable people within our communities. So thank you all for all of your continued work. I do want to highlight, Department of Healthcare Services' role in making sure that we did this brand new innovative thing here in California, and that is, as Val talked about previously, Drug Medi-Cal Organized Delivery System. This has been such an amazing thing that came to California. Sacramento County implemented just over a year ago on July 1st of 2019. And it's just amazing. In that 1 year amount of time, we have over doubled the amount of services that are available to our community. And we increased the number of folks that we're able to serve by 90%, 90%. That's a whole lot of people that maybe might not have had access to services before we had the Drug Medi-Cal Organized Delivery System. So again, want to make sure that we're emphasizing and thanking Department of Healthcare Services in their support for our substance use prevention and treatment services. And on top of that, we not only doubled a number of services that we have, we also increased our access to residential services. It used to take 90 days to get into a residential treatment program. We're now down to a 7 to 10 day wait time. That's just astonishing and amazing. And so thank you to all of our providers. Implementation of a new system, a new way of doing and administering and financing services is not an easy thing. And so it took a lot of partnership between counties, with the state, as well as with providers in terms of how to make this happen in a way that was meaningful for our communities, make sure that it was designed properly in order to meet the unique and special needs of each community around the state. And so, thank you for partnering in this endeavor in terms of making sure that we were able to have these great increases in access to services for our communities. Last part I'd like to just touch on, Kelly talked about our CalAIM work around, and thank you, Kelly, for including county perspectives in those conversations. Very impressed by the amount of partnership that went into those conversations, and it was extremely collaborative that in terms of the types of proposals that were being put together. And I'm very excited for this community in terms of our substance use and prevention treatment service providers, in terms of some of the ideas and concepts that were being put forward, very much in support of continuing to move forward in terms of further integrating behavioral health services. Right now, across the state, most, I think all but 2 counties have mental health and substance use prevention treatment services all under the same roof. But we still have these silos in terms of you have a different assessment, you have a different set of services, you have a different provider for your mental health, and separate from your assessment and treatment and so forth for your substance use services. And so part of the CalAIM proposal was to be able to integrate these types of services. And so we're very excited about continuing to move forward that CalAIM work. And I think that under DHCS's leadership, we're going to continue to see new and improved innovations as it relates to behavioral health services. So thank you all, and thank you for all the work that you do in this area and for keeping us our eye on the target. Recovery does happen. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Sacramento County, Ryan Quest, Behavioral Health Director. We really appreciate you from CCAP. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we have a quick video really quick, and then we're going to come back and do some recovery inspiration. So with that, we're going to see a quick 1-minute video. Oh, actually, it's 3 minutes. Here we go. All right, 3 minutes, and we'll be right back.
I'm Tony Greco. I'm the CEO and founder of Get Help. I found myself homeless at 15 years old, and I've been in recovery in some way or another my entire adult life. Even as a treatment professional, I couldn't find treatment for someone. The process is calling people and leaving messages, and then you go through a 10 or 15-minute conversation only to find out that there's not a bed available, only to find out that they don't take that insurance. I thought somebody needs to do something about this. Our solution happens to be technology and creating a solution for people.
There's a lot of data. What we've built is a smart search system that asks several questions to narrow down the data. Are you a vet? Are they pregnant? Or are they just looking for a shower or a hot meal?
So there are all of these barriers, all of these important factors that if you attend to them, you can help a lot of people, and you can walk down the streets of Los Angeles and you can see a reduction.
Here we are, we're on the top of the building at Weingart Center, overlooking the heart of Skid Row.
I have to tell you, I've worked on a lot of projects. This is the fastest I have ever seen in terms of movement and hitting measurable outcomes.
That's how we allocate programs, allocate beds, and we literally have to do that manually.
Research has shown that 25% of shelter beds sit empty every night. You walk outside and the street is filled with people sleeping on the street, and they have 100 beds open. Why is that?
It creates an opportunity for us to, in real-time data, be able to inform funders and other providers out there of our bed availability.
We're spending time with treatment centers, we're spending time with recovery houses, figuring out what their pain is, you know, what's bothering them, and then being able to provide a solution for that.
This will help get more folks off the street faster, quicker. At the core of our mission is to remove those barriers that keep people from moving forward in their lives and getting housing.
We have the ability to really focus on building out an ecosystem, and we get to go over to Palmdale, and we get to go throughout the rest of the county, and we can replicate the relationship building that we're doing. We're here to help the helpers, and we're here to be a resource for people who are looking for help, all of them.
So Larry, if you could put up back our rally, that would be awesome. All right, so our next thing, that is a very inspirational, very, very inspirational from Get Help, you know what I mean, video that we just saw. We're gonna keep things rolling and keep things moving. We're gonna be hearing from some people right now about recovery inspiration, so get ready. And the first person up is a person from Young People in Recovery. And this person is the Sacramento Project Coordinator, which is Jesse Hanner, which is from Young People in Recovery. Can you please join us? Jess? Is it Jesse or Jess?
Oh, it's Jesse. You can call me Jess, whatever you
Oh, no, I
prefer.
want to make sure I get it right. You know what I mean? Especially in the LGBT community. We're like, wait, get our names
Yeah,
right. So
it's okay. It's okay. Welcome. Thank you so much for having me in my short time here. My name is Jesse Hanner, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. Welcome to my kitchen. That is where we're at now. I love the advocacy going on. I love the Go Raiders. Yes, thank you, Pete. This is America's team, the Raiders, now Las Vegas. We don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about recovery. With that being said, I am the project coordinator for Sacramento. I'm also the chapter lead for Northern California for Young People in Recovery. It's an honor to be here. And so I just want to share my story a little bit and what I've come from, and also let you know what YPR is about. And I would love to connect with you guys after this. I love how flexible we are as a recovery community. You know, COVID's not going to stop us. You know, certain things that are going on right now in this country are not going to stop us from reaching each other and reaching our communities. And so I'm very proud to be along here with you guys today. And so what an honor. You know, about me, the last video I just saw, I'm a bottom end addict, which means I was on Skid Row in Los Angeles, and I seen the video before that, and it brought back some memories and how grateful I am. You know, one choice is just can take me back there. I'm from Sacramento, and I ended up on Skid Row. And I'm not going to go into detail, but you know what that entails. Literally trying to kill myself slowly, facing mental health along with addiction, just looking for my next fix day to day so I wouldn't have to feel, so I wouldn't have to be in Jesse's skin, if you will. And thank God that people reached out to me. And that's why we do what we do, right? Somebody helped us. Somebody reached out to us when I was unreachable, when I was unlovable, if you will. And now that's what we do, right? We do this because somebody reached out to us. And so I want to continuously encourage those of you specifically. I know a lot of you guys here might not be in the field. I want to specifically encourage those in the field right now. And I know, man, burnout is a big word in the recovery community. I want to challenge you guys to make sure we have self-care, make sure we're taking care of us, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't reach others. And so I've been in the field now for about 10 years, off and on, working with nonprofits. You know, like I said, I was on Skid Row. Somebody reached out to me. And then in 2000, around 2000, I would say 11, my dad had passed tragically of a heart attack due to this disease. I had some years clean and sober then. And then that night at the funeral, they helped me. His friends helped me the best way they knew how. And that was with a bottle and a bag. And I didn't want to feel. And so I went on another run for the next year. And the best thing happened to me. I'm a 12-step guy. And I cried out to my higher power. And he came in the form of a police officer. And it was the best day of my life. And that moment, when I was arrested, let me say this, it felt like this load was off me. I knew that I knew. And so with that being said, it has not been perfect since 2011. I've had a few relapses. And so if I want to drive one point home today, a person working in the field, I've been a youth advocate for youth probation. I worked in mental health parole for 2 years as a caseworker. And during that time, I've rationalized my recovery. You know, a big stigma we have, and this is just for me. I don't want to speak for anybody. I believe in all forms of recovery. I believe in harm reduction. I believe in choice theory. I believe in 12-step faith-based, whatever your flavor is, whatever helps you be better than you were yesterday, I'm all about it. And so, you know, I came under the stigma that I was allowed to have a drink one day because I was a dope fiend, and slowly but surely, we're talking 4 DUIs as I was working for mental health parole. And so, you know, this was 3 years ago. And so as I was sitting in my cell, I finally realized that I can't do things like others. And this is probably now my 6th program. And so I want to encourage you guys, if you've come off a relapse recently, if you have 20 years or you have 20 days, or maybe you used last week, I want to say this. And I coach youth football here in the inner cities. I coach in South Sacramento. I've been involved with the inner cities now for 8 years. I think one of the greatest honors I have is to be called coach in my community. So there's a saying we have at practice, and it's this: if you don't quit, you win. And it's that simple. If you don't quit, you win. If you don't quit in life, if you don't quit on yourself, if you don't quit in recovery, you're going to win this thing. So be encouraged. Continue to press forward. Continue to reach out for help. There are so many people here willing to help other people. And so if I can say anything, continue your movement, continue what you're doing, and don't quit, because you will win. With that being said, 3 years ago, I finally said enough's enough. And it has been just one miracle after the next as far as doors opening for me. Just being here today is another miracle. We all know that when we're using and drinking, we're not really trustworthy. People trust me today. I have keys to buildings today. People can count on me today. My family can count on me. And so I'm just super excited. With that being said, what is Young People in Recovery? And how do you get involved? How do you network? We are a network advocacy agency. So, what we do is we want to connect people, whether it's harm reduction, 12-step, choice theory. We don't believe in one form of recovery. It's not a one-size-fits-all, like I said. We want to make sure that we connect you with different agencies, different networking. Here, as far as Sacramento, I'll speak on Sacramento and California in general. We have 14 chapters in California alone, from San Francisco, Oakland, Sacramento, Redding. We have a new chapter in Stockton, all the way down to San Diego, Orange County, Los Angeles. We are everywhere. And what do we do? So we have a lot of things going on in Sacramento. We have all recovery meetings. What's an all recovery meeting? Well, I know sometimes there's a stigma with 12-step, and a lot of people in harm reduction feel uncomfortable with 12-step. And so we provide a place where all recovery is welcome, whether it's 12-step, choice theory, harm reduction. We want you to come. We want you to belong. So we have meetings, obviously virtually right now because of COVID. Those are once a week, twice a week, actually. They're all over the country. We're in 14 states. And so if you want to say, hey, Jesse, where can I connect my people to an all recovery meeting? You can go to Facebook, Young People in Recovery Facebook page, the national page, click on groups, and there's chapters all in the groups. Sacramento, click and like the Facebook page in SAC, all over the country. How can you get connected? You can start a volunteer chapter. We also do programming. Well, let me go back to all recovery meetings. We also do pro-social events. What's a pro-social event? Glad you asked. With that being said, we do engagement activities. And so, just last month, well, actually not last month, but before COVID, we go bowling. We take people who really wouldn't connect on a level and might be shy. What a better way to connect and go bowling, or possibly miniature golf. So we provide resources like that, and we do programming. You're coming up on the screen. That's my wrap-up bell. And so I'm wrapping it up. Don't give me just 10 minutes. I'll go for the whole hour. And so connect with us. As far as programming goes, we're connected right now with Wind Youth Services, and we just connected with First Step Housing, The Grove, which is really awesome for young adults who are coming out of homelessness. And we provide programming, the Phoenix and Epic program. We teach life skills classes, how to get resume writing, how to get a job in recovery, recovery messaging, how to get housing. And so we provide all types of things, and also for people coming out of jail. So I tried to squeeze it in 10 minutes. If you take anything away that I said today, take this with you. If you don't quit, you win. I'm super proud of all of you guys. Thank you for having me, CCAP. Go Raiders. And this is all you.
All right, Jesse, thank you so much, representing Sacramento Project Coordinator, Young People in Recovery. We really appreciate your talk. Thank you so much as far as being vulnerable and coming and being part of CCAP today. Thank you so much, and keep our rally going, okay?
Love all you guys. Thanks so much.
All right, we love you too, okay? All right, so our next person coming up, thank you once again, Jesse, so much, of recovery and inspiration we're gonna be talking about, is Carlos Rivera, which is the CEO and founder of Generation Red Road. There's also a personal colleague and friend of mine as well. So Carlos, go ahead and take it away. It's so good to see you.
All right. Thank you, Christina. Yes, I'm happy to be a part of the CCAP Recovery Happens event, something that I've been pretty familiar with over the past years. And it's been a while since I've attended, in person or even first time virtually. So I'm honored to be here. But yeah, my name is Carlos Rivera, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. This November 1st, I celebrate 16 years. If I keep doing what I did yesterday, and I'll keep doing it. My recovery has given me a new life. a life that I never imagined would be possible, only in daydreams, but it's real today. I am the CEO and co-founder of Generation Red Road, which is a national nonprofit that works with tribes all over the country, and also into other parts of the world. Canada was recently been working a lot more closely with Canada, and so our organization, we provide Native American programs to help meet the needs of our Native American communities, whether they're on reservation or in the cities, and really anyone who wants to participate. These programs, these teachings are for all the people, not just Native people. Our organization is located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I live now. But I'm a Redwood originally from Northern California. My tribe is the Sherwood Valley Band of Pomo Indians. So that's home, that's originally home. But I also have roots now in South Dakota. And so that's where, my organization is, and that's where I'm joining you from. There's over 576 federally recognized tribes in the United States. And then probably a couple hundred that are state recognized. And, I think that over the years, I've probably worked with, if not all of them, pretty close to all of them at some point, whether they're with the tribal members or organizations that, that came to the trainings. And so, when I take a look at why we founded Generation Red Road, which was, really came from the work that Gene Thin Elk did, over the past 40 years. And Gene Thin Elk is our elder to the program. He is, a mentor, and he founded the Red Road Approach curriculum back in the 70s. And then in 1979, implemented it for the first time, mainly in the Midwest parts of the country. So South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. And so from that program, of what Gene Thin Elk did, along with his partner in training was Rick Thomas, they founded the Red Road Approach. And so not only am I a Redwood original, but also Red Road original. And so I think that when I take a look at today in our communities, there's there's countless programs that's available for the whole country, for everyone. And then when you look at when you take a look at specifically for Native American communities, you can probably put up one hand and count how many programs are available for Native people. There's not many, and I think that maybe two hands if you travel into some rural reservation in the middle of the country, and you can find some programs that are there. But there's not many. And so when I take a look at what's happening in our communities across the nation, we're outnumbered. We're outnumbered by the amount of issues, by the amount of enemies that are hurting our people. And so what we did was we wanted to be a part of the solution and provide another option to recovery. And so people ask me, like, Carlos, what are you doing today that you weren't doing yesterday? And the best way that I can describe that is, my recovery doesn't look like it did 16 years ago. My recovery doesn't look like it did 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 5 years ago. My recovery has changed over the years, and it has evolved and it has grown. And so, my recovery today is really at a spiritual level. It's not confined to only the 12-step or only rooms. My recovery is a circle today. And so I think about, what we're offering today is another option. And we need more. I think we even need more than that. So if, those of you who are out there, audience listening and viewing, you know, and maybe participating in this conference or this Recovery Happens event over the next couple of days, maybe you hear something that sparks a flame within you to say, you know what, I've had this vision for a long time, and I'm just going to go do it because we need it, and not to let fear step in the way of that. And so our program, we have programs for adult men and women. We have program for youth. We have programs for even other helpers, you know, so helpers helping helpers. I heard someone say burnout earlier, and that's exactly what we're focusing on, is a Red Road approach to helpers helping helpers. We also provide workshops for tribal law enforcement, who's also a part of the first responders. And right now, I think that the gap is probably bigger than it ever has been between community and law enforcement. And so then now we take a look specifically on reservations where, you know, the tribal law enforcement, it really has a unique dynamic with the community that maybe is a little bit unique compared to the rest of the country, in which that, you know, you have tribal members who are law enforcement, you have tribal members who are family members of the people they're arresting. And so because of that, we want to take a look at how can we be a part of bridging the gap within some of our tribal communities, utilizing the Red Road approach, which is, you know, again, it's a spiritual based program, not confined to the 12 steps. And so going back to that, my recovery has grown. I had to find a place in my thinking and in my heart to allow myself to permission to make those changes. There was a time when I remember early on in my recovery, first couple years, second years, third year, you know, it was pretty straightforward. Like, this is the only way it's going to work. This is the only thing I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And that's the way it was. And what I found out was that, no, I grow as a person. I grow in my career. I grow spiritually. And so my recovery grows too. And I had to allow the permission for that to happen. And so, Generation Red Road is another, like I said, it's another option for recovery for Native and for everyone in the circle, everyone in the medicine wheel. Not just Native people in the circle. So with that being said, I just wanted to share a little bit. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Pete. See you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carlos. I love you. Heart. Okay. So that was extremely, I love the fact of both of the men, you know, talking about the recovery inspiration. Okay. That is amazing. Thank you so much to Jesse and also to Carlos. All right. So moving and grooving and whipping and dipping through this in our recovery rally and Recovery Happens today, we are going to hear from our recovery community speakers. So our first person up is from WellSpace. It's Dr. BJ Davis, Senior Manager of Training and Clinical Quality. Dr. BJ Davis, please join me. From WellSpace. All right, we'll just take a quick second to get Dr. Davis on the screen. All right. I hear you. I hear you. And that's good news. That's awesome news. He's getting his camera. And while he's getting ready and stuff, we also have an award ceremony and another person talking right after him about recovery community. So make sure that you stay put until 1 o'clock. All right. Angie or Larry, can you please help out a little bit to see if maybe there might be some technical difficulties?
Yeah, I'm not doing anything different than I did before.
BJ, this is Angie. Yeah, I know. Do you have the little white webcam icon that's at the bottom of your screen? Is it on, or does it have a little slash through it?
I do every time I do it, just circles and circles and circles.
Click it to turn it back on.
Turn on.
Okay. Since we're short on time, let's just have the audio, if that's okay with you, Christina.
Dr. Davis gets a chance, and if we can work anything out as far as getting video, that'd be amazing.
Then yeah, it might be a connection issue, so I would say just go through the audio.
Dr. Davis, can you hear us? All right. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and see if we can go ahead and get that connection back. But in the meantime, I know we do have another speaker. So when we connect, we will come back to that particular speaker. So Dr. Davis, we will come back. The next person that we have speaking about recovery community community is from New Path. And let me get myself back on here real quick. All right, are you with me? All right, so our next person that's coming up, and basically a New Path, which is acronym for Parents for Addiction Treatments and Healing. Okay, and it's Gretchen Bergman. Is it Bergman? And it's and she is the co-founder and the executive director of New Path. Please take it away, Gretchen.
Thank you. Recovery happens every day and in such beautiful ways. Thank you for inviting me to share the work of A New Path and our parent-driven policy advocacy work to reform drug policy and save lives. I'm going to make this personal. In my life, I've had many wonderful roles. I taught infants to swim. I was a dancer, a professional dancer. I'm still a fashion show producer. A lot of fulfilling roles, but my very most important role of my life was as a mom. And that's how I came to be speaking out as an advocate for therapeutic drug policies and as an advocate for recovery support services. My two sons were bright and beautiful. Every mom says that, right? My greatest hope was that they become happy and healthy adults. But their happiness was really compromised and their health was affected by addiction, for decades of addiction. They're survivors of overdose and a punitive criminal justice system. Now in their 40s, they're both in long-term recovery from heroin addiction. They both work as drug and alcohol counselors, and they speak with me now as recovery advocates, primarily to reduce stigma. Unfortunately, we've been handling the problem of substance use as a criminal justice rather than a public health concern, and that has added to the stigma. So in 1999, 3 parents got together and created A New Path to change policies in regards to nonviolent drug offenders. We felt that society and the criminal justice system were mishandling and misunderstanding the disease, and we needed to turn powerlessness into empowerment. We had a vision of therapeutic justice, and we began a path to save lives, heal families, create healthier communities. So we work to reduce the stigma associated with substance use disorders, and we advocate for therapeutic rather than punitive drug policies. In 2000, I became state chair of Proposition 36 in California, which passed in 2001, which is really treatment instead of incarceration. The important thing about that was that it created a sea change of drug policy reforms across the nation. So PATH just celebrated 21 years of advocacy work, and we're really proud of our programs and our policy reforms over the years. But I'd like to go back to stigma, because stigma is a nice word for prejudice and discrimination. Words matter. We must be careful of labels that add to the stigma, such as addict, enabler, junkie, codependent. Labels should never be used to define a human being. We embrace all forms of harm reduction. We reject tough love. Even that combination of words doesn't resonate for me. We believe in true love, not tough love. So we're constantly creating compassionate and tolerant guidance into treatment and recovery options. You know, the whole concept of codependency that's been thrown at us for years is not based on fact or on science. The drug failed, more weight against our own families, unfortunately affect communities of color and
of the connection. There we go.
Go ahead, Gretchen. Are you still with us? We've got about 2 more minutes. Are you with us? All right, Gretchen.
Looks like she's completely out of the room.
All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. So I'm going to come back on a little bit later and come back. That'll be amazing. Oh, there she goes. All right, Gretchen. You just need to turn your webcam on real quick. Or there you are. All right. We have about 2 more minutes. Go ahead.
Is our Ask Mom How to Save a Life campaign. We know that 72,000 people died in 2019 of overdose, and those numbers continue to rise. So, and that we were really in a triple crisis, right? COVID-19, opioid overdose, and the systemic racism of our criminal justice system. So since 2014, we've been, moms across the nation and in our local area have been doing overdose prevention trainings and Narcan distribution. And to date in San Diego County, 1,068 people have reported their lives were saved through our program, and we've trained over 5,000 people. So I spoke out because I had to break through the shackles of shame. If my sons had any other disorder, I would have learned about it and done whatever I could for their best care. So we must reject the practice of tough love because our children are dying alone. Letting them hit bottom too often means death. We're also involved in a current campaign is Too Many Moms Mourning, because we understand the intersection of the war on race, the war on drugs, the war on women and LGBTQ. And so we have to be vigilant in protecting and humane and life-affirming policies and in resisting all forms of hatred and bigotry. 1 in 3 families is dealing directly with addictive illness. So we must treasure and nurture hope. I'm so grateful that my sons are able to be in such a wonderful, robust recovery community now. I also want to take the opportunity to invite you to our Strut for Saving Lives event, September 26th, another incredible recovery event. And it's virtual, and you can reach out to us.
All right, Gretchen, I think you might have froze, but I want you to make sure to put your information in the chat box. I think that's important. I think Mario already beat us to the punch talking about please provide a link. So when you come back on, please provide a link. That'd be great about everything that you're doing. We want to thank you, Gretchen. I think you're on fire. You know, I love the part when she talked about labels, because I always say labels are for clothes and not for people. You know, true love, not tough love, and then treasure, you know, and nurture. So that's awesome. So we want to thank you, Gretchen, for your participation. We really appreciate you. Thank you. All right. So with further ado, I want to bring up our next speaker of recovery communities and a leader in this industry. This is a person that represents WellSpace, which is Dr. B.J. Davis. He is the Senior Manager of Training and Clinical Quality. All right, Dr. Davis, go ahead and take it away.
I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but I'm here. So I want to thank Pete and Christina and Craig and all the people over at CCAP for inviting me. I appreciate it. And although many know me, know I have no fear of speaking or difficulty filling up a couple hours with my perspective, I'm going to try to be brief today. So but rather than bore you guys with a whole bunch of cosmic inspirations and aspirations, I think I'll just share with you what was most significant in my own personal, professional evolution and hope it'll benefit you. I'm currently the Senior Manager in charge of training training and clinical quality at WellSpace Health, and I was previously Executive Director of Strategies for Change. WellSpace is one of the largest, probably the largest provider of outpatient AOD treatment in Greater Sacramento, as well as residential MAT services and things like that. And Strategies for Change was a premier in the field as well. But it hasn't always been that way. In 1999, I paroled from prison for the second time. What was different that time than the previous time was that something happened to me while I was locked up that really changed the direction of my life. About 2 months into my sentence, I got a letter from my ex-wife who told me, you know, what a jerk I had been, but also said that my mother, my 77-year-old mother, had had a heart attack while I was, you know, where no one knew where I was at, and was likely going to die. And I realized in that moment, while I was locked up in my cell, away from the person who loved and cared about me the most in the world, taking care of me all my life, worried about me, prayed for me, when she needed me the most, I wasn't there. And in a moment of quite painful honesty, I had to admit that I had been living a lie for a long time, that I was not a good son, I wasn't a good partner, I wasn't a good father, I wasn't a good citizen. I generally wasn't a very good person, that I had been telling myself and everyone else that I had been for years. I had to admit that I had for years been going through the motions and that my life really didn't have much content or direction. It was in that moment that I made a commitment to transform my life. One that regardless of what happened with my mom, that I would live my life, the rest of my life, in a way where anybody who loved and cared about me, and I profess to love and care about, I wouldn't be away from anymore. And that was my motivation to change. But you know, to create a new life, a purpose and meaning, and make better choices, as a couple of people before had said. But motivation alone isn't, you know, and what I want you guys to do, to think about, is to look for that thing that will motivate you to make that kind of commitment. But motivation alone isn't enough. I mean, recovery takes a lot of different pathways. And so what happened to me after I decided I was going to change was I was fortunate enough to land at American River College, a local junior college, and I ran into two of the most supportive professors that I'd ever met. One was David Miller, and the other one was Debbie Sena. And Debbie Sena used to have these really famous office hours, and I remember going up to her office one day and showing her this really cool thing I had done, and I was really just looking for attention. And she looked at me and said, isn't it amazing, BJ, what a person can do when they start believing in themselves? And then she just turned around and acted like it was no big deal, and basically I was dismissed. And of course, I was a little pissed off because she didn't give me the attention I wanted, but I really had to kind of think about what she had said. A couple of months later, I was taking a test, and David Miller walked by my desk and dropped a paper off. Later on, I picked it up, went up to his office hour, and it was an application to the master's program at Sac State. And I asked him, I raised it up and I said, you know, what is this? And he said, well, I'm pretty sure you can read, so you can figure that out for yourself. So then I followed that up with, an equally obtuse question. I said, well, can I do this? Do you think, can? And he said, of course you can. And then he turned around and dismissed me as well. And I remember walking away from that and, a little bit dazed and confused. But I also started to think, I had to think about what had just happened. And what had just happened is that the seed of believing in myself that Professor Sena had planted, I think that, David watered, because, I started to think, if these people that I trust believe in me so much, then maybe it was okay for me to start believing in myself. And not continuing, because if you're in recovery, you guys know what I mean, we always think that we're only as good as the last mistake, all the mistakes we've made. But, they gave me permission to believe in myself, and I did. I had no doubt that those two experiences changed the direction of my life. So, a challenge for you is going to be to look in the mirror and start telling that image that you see there, with commitment and hard work, that you are absolutely worthy and capable of dictating your future rather than only hoping for it. For many years, this will be hard, as you have been lightly told that, always an addict, once an addict, always an addict, once a criminal, always a criminal. You've been, you repeatedly being told that you're helpless or hopeless. But that's not true unless you believe it. And so, the biggest predictor of successful outcome of almost anything is self-efficacy. And that is belief. It's in business, sports, entertainment, education. And that's really about believing in your ability to do whatever it is that you're attempting to do. So regardless of what else you guys believe, and start believing in yourselves. You don't need anyone's permission to do that. But if you do, I'll give you the permission right now. Stop beating yourselves up about mistakes you made and start believing in yourselves and plotting a course toward the future. And the last thing I want to share with you was that while I was at, I went to Sac State, the master's program, and while I was there, I actually ran into something you heard a little earlier about choice theory. And choice theory says we cannot control, nor are we responsible for everything that happens to us in life, but we are absolutely responsible for how we choose to deal with it, even if we choose to do nothing. And that is true. Ultimately, the only thing that we can directly control and are responsible for is how we choose to live our lives and how we choose to do our recovery. For many in this world, that's the biggest obstacle that you face, is that we make excuses, we blame everyone else, we give up, and all of those are choices. And I'm not saying life isn't difficult, because it is. Just look at our current situation. But if we choose to give in or give up, we are left with nothing but apathy, hopelessness, resentment, pain, and despair. It was something I was surely guilty of. However, choice theory challenged me and every individual to continually ask themselves 4 questions. Christine, I'm almost done. First one is, what do you want? Get clear on what you want in life. It's hard to chart a course if you don't know where you're going. 2, what are you choosing to do to get what you want? Which means you need to take an honest inventory on the amount of effort you are investing and the steps you are taking to achieve your goals. 3, is what you're choosing or not choosing to do working? Get real with yourself about how you feel about your life. Are you moving toward or away from your goals? Are you happy, miserable, or do you even care? And 4th, lastly, and most importantly, if what you are currently choosing to do is not working, what can and are you willing to do? Not just think about or talk about, but do. That will be more effective at you being successful in your recovery and attaining your goals. Choice theory is about personal responsibility and accountability. And the challenge for you all will be to not choose to look for and accept reasons to quit when things get tough, and they will, but rather to choose to look for reasons to keep going and to overcome any obstacle that stands between you, your recovery, and your life goals. The measure of an individual is not what they do when things are going the way they want them to, but rather what they do when they are not. So for this ex-convict, ex-dope fiend, and ex-victim, it was the healthy support, meaningful motivation, learning to believe in myself, determination, and some choice theory that resulted in my walking across the stage in June of 2006, after getting out of prison in 1999 and having my then 85-year-old mother, who didn't die while I was in prison, see her son conferred his doctorate in clinical psychology. I earn the right to stand before you today and state, if you can dream it and believe it, you can achieve it. It was the proudest moment of my life. I'll end with this. The great jurist Oliver Wendell Holmes said, a mind once stretched by a new idea never returns to its original dimensions. My hope is that these few words I have shared with you today about what contributed to my success have stretched your mind such that you have a newer, brighter, more exciting, more rewarding, and freer future. Thank you again, and recovery definitely happens.
Well, Dr. Davis, you are on fire. That was awesome. Thank you so much from everybody here at CCAP and BHAP. Definitely a leader in this industry. We really appreciate your share today. That is, that was fire. If anybody just heard all those words, especially the 4 things that he just went over. So you go ahead, Dr. Davis, drop your information, because I know there's some people that want to get in touch with you in the comment box. We just want to thank you once again for coming and being part of the 28th annual Recovery Happens. We really, yes, the heart right there. We really, really appreciate you. Thanks so much, Dr. Davis, for being a part of our Recovery Happens. Okay.
My pleasure.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
So with that, thank you once again, Gretchen, and thanks again, Dr. Davis, for Recovery Community Speakers. So we have a quick video for you really quick, moving and grooving on, which we have is We Recover. So a We Recover video, let me go ahead and let me put that on for you real quick. So We Recover video, there we go. It's about 2 minutes and I'll be back, all right?
My sister and I always had a love-hate relationship, but she sent me a text message that was basically an SOS. Max called me.
So that was one of our partners at We Recover. If you know anybody or even yourself that wants to be a part of that, we'll drop the information as about We Recover that you can go ahead and check out on their website of the video that you just saw. And that's who we are, CCAP is partnering with as well. So we're going to keep rolling, moving and grooving. It's about 12:56. We're on task and on time. Our next part of this ceremony, and it's the wrap up part of it, is our award ceremony, which we have 2 awards to give away. I'm going to ask my colleague Craig Corey to go ahead and come on camera with me. He is the membership manager, and he will be presenting our first award, which will be our legacy award. Go ahead, Craig, take us away.
All right, thank you, Christina. So this is a huge honor for me. The person that we're going to be presenting the award to is a very important person in my life, and also the person who he's going to be receiving the award for, who was a pioneer in this industry. So if Roland is available, if he could come on. Roland, are you there?
Yeah, I just sent him a request to turn his webcam and audio on.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, I will share that there are many people in this industry who are forward thinkers and visionaries and pioneers in this industry. And, you know, one of the things that CCAP likes to do is acknowledge those that have become before us. A lot of those that you are hearing today are some of those people as well, people that are doing what we can to inspire change in this profession and in the world of recovery, and that is just so important. And we just fully believe that everybody should be acknowledged for that. And there he is. Hi, Roland.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. And I have Roland Williams here. And as I was sharing about the pioneering, we're going to be presenting the award to Roland is going to be accepting the award for one of our pioneers, but Roland to me is also an inspiration. The very first training I ever got to go to as an intern in 2001 was with Roland in Stockton, California, in a little tiny county building. And he had a workbook and a book on working with the African American population at the time. And I remember I got that book, and it changed my course. It was just amazing. That was 19 years ago, so it's an honor to be here with you today, Roland, and it's an honor to present this award. And so, Roland is here today to accept the award from our Legacy Award from CCAP. And like I said earlier, there are people in this world that are in this industry that are pioneers and visionaries. And unfortunately, we lost this person back on July 2nd of this year. So Roland is here to accept and to say a few words. But we want to present the Legacy Award, our pioneer in the recovery movement, to Terrence T. Gorski. And the award, as you can see it up there, the plaque, it says, "In appreciation for your dedication and commitment to the recovery community." And he definitely was that. So thank you, Roland, for being here. And in honor of Terrence Gorski, we'd like to present the award to you to accept on behalf of him. So if you have any words you'd like to say, feel free.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the award, and I will be accepting this award in behalf of, for Terry Gorski, in behalf of the Synapse Corporation, which Terry started and founded, and also his children, TJ Gorski and Nika Gorski, and Teresa Watson, who's the clinical executive administrator for Synapse. And I am the director of training for Synapse. And Terry truly was a pioneer. I mean, the guy changed this industry. He's probably the most prolific author in the field of substance abuse treatment. I learned about him in 1989. I was 3 years clean. I had just been working as a counselor for 2.5 of those 3 years. I was still on probation. I was very interested in relapse prevention because if I relapsed, I was going to prison. So I heard talk about this therapist out of Chicago that had this new model on relapse prevention. And someone came back and talked and had done a little presentation on his training. And I went to Chicago. I said, I got to do that. And I signed up and paid my own way and went to Chicago a few months later and did the 6-day relapse prevention certification training and got to meet Terry. And Terry invited me to be part of the faculty. And that was in 1989. And I've been working with him ever since. And that changed my life, both personally and professionally. That training is amazing. Very experiential, the tools and the techniques that we learn as clinicians and personally are unlike anything I had ever done before. And Terry continued to be a mentor and a friend to me for the next 30 years. He passed away, unfortunately, last month after 3 or 4 years of illness. And I've been running the training department for Synapse for the last 6 years, and I loved him. He was a good guy, and he made a difference. It's not how you die, it's how you live. And I think we should all hope to leave a legacy behind that our life mattered. So many people pass away, and nobody even notices that they were ever alive. They came and gone, but people will never forget Terrence Gorski. The lives he touched. There's been thousands and thousands and thousands of people that were touched by his work. There are hundreds and hundreds of people that have gone through a Gorski training and got to walk away and feel the magic of that training experience. So I'm happy to say that we are continuing to keep his legacy alive. Synapse is still going. We're going to be providing a 5-day advanced relapse prevention certification this October 26th to 30th. So anybody who's interested in that, I am personally training Terry's son, TJ Gorski, to be a certified addictions relapse prevention specialist. And we're going to get him involved. He really wants to be involved in his dad's work. And he's brilliant, just like his dad. He's 24 years old, and he's mind-blowing, this kid, what he already has been able to absorb from his brief exposure to his dad's clinical model. So I'm excited about the future of Synapse. I'm heartbroken about Terry's his passing. I was able to go to Florida, to Tampa, and do a ceremony that we did at the ocean, and spread some ashes and be with some close friends and family. I have some of his ashes right here in my office, and we did a big virtual ceremony, also a celebration of his life, and people from all over the world participated. It was beautiful. So we're going to miss him, but we'll always have access to his work, and his legacy will continue. So on behalf of the whole Synapse organization, I want to thank you for acknowledging him and the work that he did in this industry. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Roland, so much. You know, I've got nothing but love for you and him. We really appreciate you coming and accepting the award on his behalf and the Synapse and just everything all in general. We just, you know, it's very touching when we found out. So we just know he leaves a legacy, I mean, and a future for all of the substance abuse counselors and then some. So we just thank you for having you on today and accepting his award. We really appreciate you, Roland, and also the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Christina. I'm still waiting for my swag from the conference.
That's right. I got you, Roland. I got you. I think it was a T-shirt and a hat, right? Or a polo. I got you. All right. We'll talk offline. All right. Thank you so much again. And thank you so much, to your team and at Synapse for the Legacy Award. Thanks so much, Roland. Okay. All right. So moving right along, thank you so much. Our next award for part of our award ceremony and our last award that we're giving out for today, I'm going to go ahead and call on Daniel Chagoya, which is our CCAP board chair, that will come up and go ahead and give Innovation for Recovery. So Daniel, take it away.
All right. So my name is Daniel Chagoya, and I'm the CCAP board chair. I'm also the COO of Cedar House Life Change Center in Bloomington. And I get the privilege to present the Innovations in Recovery Award. So I want to ask Ryan Miller to join. Ryan, are you there?
Hey, Daniel.
How you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. Good. So Ryan Miller is the Deputy Director of Forensics, Behavioral Health, and Substance Abuse Prevention in the County of Riverside. I really have the honor to work with Ryan for many years as my organization is a provider within his county. Ryan and his team really worked endlessly to make sure that they have rolled out the waiver and did a really good job at doing that. They really paved the way to be one of the first counties to roll out the DMC ODS waiver, I believe in February 2017. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And, you know, I heard the stories of the long hours and the hard work from his team they had to put in just to make everything go live. Ryan was committed and not only prepared his staff, but also had focus groups with us providers to ensure we were as prepared as we could be for the waiver, which I know a lot of us appreciate. Ryan is very transparent, truly cares about providers, which I'm grateful for, Ryan. The quarterly provider meetings, you really set the tone in those meetings and really have a sense of, I want to say, more like a family-like atmosphere, and I know the providers can probably all agree. The providers in the county often collaborate and share resources, and I think a lot of that has to do with the direct result of leadership. Ryan, we know that you're always looking for innovative ways to improve and increase services in the county, and you're always putting the consumer's best interest first. I couldn't ask to be part of a better county system of care. Ryan, I want to thank you for all that you do and for leading the way for other counties in the state. On behalf of CCAP, I'd like to present you with the Innovations in Recovery Award. This is for your commitment to maximizing the potential of California's DMC ODS waiver through innovative recovery center programming with the highest level of quality and compassion. And I just want to say, Ryan, from my heart, I really respect you. I respect everything that you do, and I truly appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Daniel. It was cool. I didn't know who was presenting it. And, thank you to Pete for inviting me. And I'll try to match Christina's kind of enthusiasm because it is Recovery Happens month. And but I don't know if I will be able to. I got an extra monster out just in case to give it a go, though. But honestly, humbly, thank you. I do love our providers. I love our team. And it's a lot of work, but if we back up to, 2015, when, the state came out with this beautiful vision, I have to give credit to Marlise and Karen for really crafting this, and from the state, from taking a perspective of, knowing that SUD as a whole was that stepchild, and maybe not in the forefront, even though it affects every single one of our lives across the board. Everyone knows someone that's been damaged by the disease of addiction, and even more people know people that have been affected positively because we do recover. And going back to Dr. Quist's presentation a little bit ago, he knows I love data. He's taught me a lot about data, so I would be remiss not to share at least a couple cool things. And one of those is, overall, because we followed that vision set by the state and we rolled it out here, and all of our executive management, my team, and all of our providers jumped on board. Since we started this rodeo, we've been able to increase, for example, for kids age 12 to 20, we've increased service for them 732%. Residential treatment over 500% for kids. For adults, over 450%. That's insane. And what that means is, by doing this together as a village, we've created a system here in Riverside and our sister counties around us and across the state that enables us to plant a seed of recovery, to touch those human beings and their families and show them that there's a different way of life. And that different way of life is why I do what I do. And there is not a possibility or a chance that I couldn't do this without all of you across the state. That those lives that are being saved, that's the part that I get to hear about. When my staff come to me, I'll share one story just because it, grabs our heart, right? We speak the language of the heart around here. But we were confined to 4 walls before the waiver, right? All of our staff were confined to 4 single walls. We weren't allowed out in the field like our mental health teams that I send out. They get to go out, but we couldn't, not in the SUD world. And maybe 6 months ago, the staff were able to go out into the field because we heard that there was a pregnant woman with a child living out, in the bush. And they were able to go out, hang out in those bushes down by the river bottom, talk her into coming to treatment. And that, that pregnant with that child and her little one in hand was able to be placed the same day into one of our providers that said, absolutely, we can make room now, right here, right today. And more than that, there's nothing to say. And I'm humbled. I love all of you guys. And, I think that we in Riverside have the very best providers in the nation. And I'll say it over and over again. So thank you. Thank you, CCAP. And thank you to the state for having a vision that we don't need to be the stepchild, that we need to be integrated in every facet of every service, whether it's health, mental health, everything, so that we can help you save lives. So thank you.
All right. Well, we want to say thank you so much. And thank you, Daniel. And thank you for being a part of this. Ryan, once again, congratulations again. Daniel, did you have any final, anything else before we conclude our program?
Take it away, Christina.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, which is the chair of CCAP. So I just wanted to go ahead, well, actually CCAP board chair, I'm sorry. And then also Ryan, congratulations, also Behavioral Health Deputy Director. We really appreciate all the work that you're doing. So with further ado, that concludes our awards ceremony. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and we are actually going to be wrapping up for the day. I'm going to ask my president and CEO to go ahead and join me right now. These are our final words and thoughts of the day. We want to go ahead and thank, everybody that was involved today, from the Phoenix to what is it called? Michael, Ryan Hampton, Dave Sheraton, NAR. I mean, there's a mix of everybody that, this takes to put on, and so we're super excited to have everybody here. We did a rally. It was exciting. It was our 28th annual Recovery Happens. We're like, oh my goodness, we're shifting it from the Capitol to over here. But we really, really appreciate you, coming aboard and having fun with us. Everybody that won something, just know that your life matters. Everybody's life matters. 28th annual Recovery Happens. Wherever your background is, whatever your sexual orientation is, your nationality, your race, any of that stuff. The bottom line is we're fighting a war and we're recovering. We all recover, and we're all the same thing. We bleed the same colors, as far as blood is red, unless you're the Hulk and have green blood, right? So we just want to say thank you so much for spending your time and helping us rally. And the California recovery community is huge, and our hopes is next year that we will be at the state capitol. And I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Pete Nelson. Go ahead, Pete.
All right. Thank you, Christina. You are amazing masters of ceremonies. So we appreciate you, and thank you for keeping rolling and for your energy. Your energy is unprecedented. I mean, nobody can touch that. So, thank you, Christina. Please tell everybody, please tell Christina, thank you for keeping this rolling and keeping this moving and grooving. We totally appreciate it. I just want to say, finally, thank you, everybody, for making this an amazing Recovery Happens. And just remember that it's not just a day. It's not just a month. It's all year long. So recovery is not just an event. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. And we all do this together. We align together and we do this together. So let's remember that we all go together. We've had lots of people from all different organizations, all different, different ways of, talking about and doing recovery, but we're all doing this together. So let's not forget that, and let's keep this up and do this together. So with that, I'd like to close the 28th annual Recovery Happens, and we're going to be excited to be on the West Steps next year for the 29th, and we're going to be heading up to the 30th annual. So we're almost there to the 30th annual. So 29th next year, and the year after that, 30th annual. So let's keep this rolling. Let's keep this going, and let's support all the different recovery events this September. And you know what? Let's make recovery the focus. So let's keep that up. Let's celebrate and let's work with all the different organizations and support them as well. So all of them, we put all the information. If you needed the information, you can go to our resource page on calrecovery.org to find out about, those different organizations that were on here today. And let's support everybody, and let's do this together. We're better together. So let's align together and work together. So with that, thank you, everybody, and have yourself a great day and a great week and a great month and a great rest of the year. All right. Thank you. Bye.